right on to additions or changes to tonight's agenda. Does the committee have any additions or changes tonight? Okay. Hearing none, moving on. We still have the minutes from December 10th, December 12th, and hopefully the committee has received the December 19th minutes. I apologize in advance for any email exchange problems. It did appear that I had forwarded those minutes on December 24th, but it appears it might have been stuck in the Gmail server somewhere, so I do apologize. Hopefully everybody has that, and we're prepared to vote on that.
I make a motion to accept the December 10th
Okay.
minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. Pascucci to accept December 10th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Peoples. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries 4, 5, 6. 601.
No, I voted aye. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the December 12th minutes as written.
We have a motion by Mr. Pascucci. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Peoples. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries 601.
I make a motion to approve the December 19th minutes as written.
We have a motion by Mr. Pascucci to approve December 19th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Valencourt. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 601. Okay. So all of the minutes from our past meetings are now approved, and we'll make sure those are updated to the town website. Moving on to reports. School business, Mr. York.
All right. Well, we do have a plethora of things for you guys tonight. At our meeting last night, well, first on Tuesday, the LEA did vote and ratify the agreement that the negotiating teams had come to. And then again, last night, the school board also accepted the contract as negotiated. And it will now be moving on to the voters in March. Here are some handouts of the on the language.
Thank you very much.
Changes to the contract. I'll go through this fairly quickly. One of the things that we were able to negotiate starting in the year 16-17, we've negotiated the sick time from 15 days to 12 days, and for new teachers down to 10 days, and for new teachers they can space bank only 110 days. We have made a change to the insurance company, School Care Open Access Plus, or School Care HMO, and in that, on the HMO part of it, there is a employee increase on the covering of those costs, and changing from year 15 to years 16-17 of 1%. We did get some changes in.
Jimmy John, were those the only changes in the healthcare?
Pardon me?
Were those the only changes in the healthcare?
Well, the plans are less expensive than the existing plans that we have. So we have another handout that'll show you some savings and stuff on that. We did get some procedures for determining reduction in force. There are some changes there that both the LEA and the school board agreed on. We'll go into the compensation and the various steps as you can read through that, and really if you have any questions on that process, school board will be glad to answer those questions. Here are some handouts of how the financial impacts will, on the tentative agreement will be, so if we, yeah, you can read through this, I don't need to read through it, but total, give you a general idea, the, in year one, 14-15, the increase in the wages is $421,489, but there will be a healthcare savings of, with the healthcare changing of $208,106, which brings the total cost of the increase to $213,383. In the second year, you'll have an increase of $212,737, and then there's a savings of $17,100. That is the increase of the 1% that changes from the district to the employee. So that the total increase on the district side is $195,637. And then in year three, it's again an increase, or salary increases of $203,121, and a healthcare adjustment of $17,100 for a total increase of $186,021. So that's the relative process. I believe we calculated the Frank had given us yesterday. It was a 26-cent increase in year one.
Correct.
To the tax rate.
Correct.
And we have with us tonight the chairman of the school board and the president of the LEA, if any of the budget committee members wish to ask any questions. Derek was on the negotiating team, and Carol's the president, so she knows a lot of what was going on also. So,
John, just 14-15, so I can understand the salary numbers. That reflects the fact that teachers have been without a contract for a couple of years, so that they get the steps that they should be on for 14-15.
to give you an idea, if the contract is ratified, 3 or 4 years ago, our teachers were all at right about the average for the state. Of course, they've fallen a little further behind since we haven't had any increases. This contract will get them back to the average salaries of this year, but it won't occur till 2016. So this is the first year doesn't get them whole. It just begins the process of moving them forward.
Bill, were you asking about what happened to people who had multiple years of no steps?
Well, my understanding is we've gone, the last couple of years, they haven't gotten any step increases at all. So what my question was, the 14-15 number reflects now they're getting steps.
14-15 is both steps and an increase in the step scale.
And an
yes.
increase in step table. So
And because the
they-
contract is enforced, but yours, that there's been no contract, the board has voted not to give steps. So we have some teachers who've been with us, for example, 11 years, who are still on step 7.
Right.
So they've actually lost 4 step increases over time.
So what does this contract do for them?
It does not give them back the past losses. All it gives them is a step from, so if somebody is in year 11 and they're on step 7 because 4 times steps have not been given, they move from step 7 to 8.
Okay. Yeah, which makes sense.
And we step 1 went away. Step 2 became step 1, so the steps did move up in that process.
And then you've applied a percent increase over the next,
A dollar amount increase, as opposed, because the percent changes from the teacher category. But
The steps are fixed. Each step, so say in the first grade for a bachelor's degree, the steps are $1,450 a piece. And the master's plus 30, the highest grade, it's $1,700 a piece. And it's consistent the whole way through, so there's no percentage increase. In the first year, essentially, we're gonna first move the whole scale one step, and they'll stay on the existing step, but then we're gonna give them a step. So it'll still only go from step 7 to step 8. But essentially, people on the scale are actually getting 2-step increases. So
The
if you're on
equivalent
step
to-
7, you're gonna move to step 8, but step 8 is really the old step 9. So you'd get 1,450 times 2, you get a $2,800 increase. $2,900 increase. The people at the top of the scale only get 1 step because they're not getting that step movement. So they'd only get the $1,400 increase. And then year 2, we even got year 2.
And the intent then, by the end of the contract, is to get the teachers back to the average?
They'll be at the average of this year. So they'll still, if everyone keeps increasing at the same rate, they'll still be below average, but they'll be at the average of this year.
About 5 to 7 years ago, they were average or slightly above average for the peer group that we traditionally use. So at the end of this year, if the contract goes into place, in the 16-17 year, our salary scale will be equivalent to the group average for 13-14. So it'll be about half of that. I mean, if you had a similar contract like this again, it would still close the gap, but you'd have to do a third 3-year contract actually to get them back to the midpoint at this sort of increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, mathematically, yeah.
How competitive is this contract compared to other communities? I'm sure there was some benchmarking done and.
Below the state average. It's always nice if you look just a little east of here, because Hudson is the absolute lowest in the state. But given that we're a derivative from Hudson, there's a few districts that are lower than us. I would say we're 30th, 40th percentile of, on salary.
With the contract.
Before the contract, with that, that would put us close to the midpoint, but still below the state average.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Yeah, gonna vote on something?
That is the will of the committee.
I do have some warrant articles to tell you about tonight.
For the warrant article?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Okay.
then that's what we'll vote on.
Yeah. We do have revenue projections. I have one here. I don't know if you guys have them, but if not,
They're the same as.
we have,
Let's do it that way.
Just while that's being passed around, the longevity payment, is that an annual payment, or is that a one-time, once they hit the range that allows for a longevity?
Yeah.
Brian, did you hear that question?
No?
I did.
Brian?
Let me repeat. Just as we were handing this out, I'm still flipping through this document, and it says longevity payments at the, towards the back of the document. Once the period of 15 to 19 years or 20-plus years hits, longevity payments become applicable. Or is it a one-time payment, or is it annual thereafter?
And that's from, it was in the last contract, and I believe there was a modification. Cindy, you would probably know. That longevity structure's been there for,
Oh,
Long time.
a long time.
20-plus years.
A long time,
So
yeah.
there's already a longevity payment plan in place?
That's been
Okay,
in there since like the early 90s, late 19.
thank you.
Did you get this?
So revenues.
The revenue projections are materially the same as was presented, I believe, 2 meetings ago to the Budget Committee. The only one area that I will express to you, and we had some conversation in a directors meeting here at SAU just the other day, was Medicaid distribution. There's some regulation, there is a regulation out there that is being considered that will potentially diminish the school district's ability to be reimbursed for Medicaid-provided services to students on an IEP. We're watching that closely, and the projection that we have made, the 92,000, we still are confident that that will come in. However, if this legislation should pass, there's reason to believe that we may need to keep a very close eye on that for the upcoming fiscal year. But for the most part, revenue projections were the same. And you can see at the bottom, there's a quick little calculation as well relative to the estimated tax impact on the operating budget.
What's the current tax rate?
I'm sorry?
What's the current tax rate?
13.52,
13.52?
the school rate, yep.
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
I'm saying. That's right, I have it then. You use the same valuation that the town is using?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the impact of that, for the most part, is, as you know, the budget has gone down, but the tax impact has that other calculation called revenue. And we are estimating that there's going to be approximately a $117,000 decrease to the education grant, adequacy aid, if you will. The school district no longer will receive in 2015 their education aid grant from the state as well. And obviously, we cannot forecast the unassigned fund balance. Last year, it was $367,000 that offset the tax impact. So those three items alone equals
Right, and you're not estimating any fund balance?
No.
In this?
No.
That's fine.
I don't know if that's been the past practice, but I haven't done that in the past, because again, you put it out there. You know, that we always, you hear we managed to, or 200,000, I guess Mr. Martin previous would do that, but again, the budgets are getting tighter. And sometimes I'd rather not put that number out and be more open with the board, to the board, to the budget committee as well. When we get towards mid to end of fiscal year, we'll get a better handle on that.
Do we know what the education tax rate is?
That's not set yet. That I used, again, I used the current statewide education tax. Yeah, that, I don't believe that's been set yet.
Well, the revenue number's right, but the tax rate stayed the same?
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And
And
then
then,
default budget?
we can, that's just a handout. We have forwarded the fall budget to the attorney to take a look at. And the board will vote or accept the default budget on our meeting on the 22nd.
So is the tentative one 20,822, John?
I
didn't hear your
That's the
question.
total, all funds. The highlighted in the back with the, that's the operating.
So 19,649 is the operating default?
Correct, yep, that's right. 19,649,214.
So if that is the number, then it's less than the operating budget, proposed operating budget?
Yep, I've got some of those metrics analysis down here. If you look down at the bottom.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, there was some reconciliation that I've done on the school budget. I've gone through this hard copy that we've gone through every page,
Yep.
all the grants funds. I reconciled to all the minutes and committee votes. And I still disagree with the operating budget number as well as the total budget number that's inclusive of grants and food service. We're not far off, but I'm off. And
Well, not having seen your numbers.
What's the definition
well, I
of
provided you a
far, if
spreadsheet
not
of
far off?
every line, which
Sent
I
that to
had.
me?
Yep.
When did I get it?
It was forwarded to Mr. York, and that was forwarded to yourself.
Okay.
What, a few days ago? 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
ago?
But how far off are we?
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, to be honest
Okay.
with you. We've been dealing a little bit with oil.
Yeah,
these
no,
last few days.
and understand that. Yeah, part of why at least we're off from the total budget perspective
Yep.
is you're including $575,000 for grants, right? But in the handout, we have $340,090, so that's part of it.
That's part of it there.
The other side of it is when I'm removing grants and looking at it, I have a budget committee recommended at this point, that's inclusive of the 340, because we haven't voted on grants yet,
Right.
of 20,830,378 is what was presented to the committee, and a total budget committee of 20,886,678.57.
So if you took the default food service budget out, if you took the food service budget out, what number would you be at?
If I took the food services, I am at, so I'll remove food services and grants. Fair?
Just do if you just do the operational budget.
Operating budget.
Yep.
I have 19,716, 976.57.
19,7, you said 69?
19,716.
716.
100,000 more than they have. I like your number.
I don't have any numbers, I was just trying to keep track of your numbers, that's what I was doing. How you
So
gonna
basically, you're looking at a spread of about 40,
No,
$42,000?
my number is less than their number.
Yeah, $100,000 less.
Oh.
Not 100,000. When 19,762 to 19,716. It's a difference of about
50,000, 40-something thousand.
46,000.
Right.
That's big enough that we got to find a happy median there. Hard to vote bottom line tonight if we don't have that number right.
Yeah.
Both bottom line tonight, we got
So-
a problem.
The other side of the equation, and it could be just a function of what's presented in this hard copy binder, is I've also tried to go back in preparation for budget hearing, right? And material that's typically provided in budget hearing, to look at what the voter approved for this current year, right? And when I look at that, it's 20,995,91, right? Voter approved in March. When I add it all up, according to the allocation, I get 21,175,000. So I'm off by $185,000 between what voter approved and what's in this handout. And I can't support that. I don't know why.
50 might have been the repairs for the LMS that were taken out of the capital reserve. Remember, we took about 50,000 out for the fire panel during the year last year.
Okay.
So that would have been.
But would that have been and plus also the parking lot that we
That was from,
encumbered that from the previous year. But we spent it.
that was expended in last year.
What the district has done in the past is they will encumber money at the end of the year to be spent the following fiscal year. They make a budget modification, and encumber the monies, and you'll see it on the balance sheet when the auditor's financial statements come out. So when the board looks at, during budget development, they had made a decision a while back to take the budget development and make it as a comparison to the revised budget, which will include those encumbrances. So that's why you gotta back that out, if you will, the 185, which will bring you back down to the voter-approved appropriation. So part of it next year, maybe you wanna look at what the adopted budget is, and then see the modifications or the changes, because I think what the board's intent was, and it's right, because when you're doing budget development, you want to see if there's been any budget transfers during that previous fiscal year to see what's gone on, so that you may have budgeted, for instance, $1,000 for one item, but you needed to transfer 500 out and put it into another line. So I think that's part of the confusion as I looked at, because I did see that we were off. But when you look at, when we put together the default budget, we're using the adopted budget figures, so that those all come down and reconcile back to the approved appropriations.
Okay.
So I think that was causes some of the confusion. I think next year, it probably makes a lot of sense that we show the budget development form, the adopted budget, so that ties back to your MS 24, which
Right.
is the voter approved, and then you see all your adjustments, and then you see the revised budget. But again, the board wants to see when they put their budget amount in, we're making it as a comparison to the revised budget. So that if you see the revised budget went from, adopted 1,000, revised to $500, and then they're budgeting 500, you'll see the difference to be 0,
Okay.
if that helps.
Yeah, I'll have to relook at those numbers. But in any event, for the bottom line as of tonight, we're still off, right?
Well, how are we gonna resolve that?
I believe,
I mean, you're the key.
yeah,
You've got the books.
yep.
I mean, that's the number.
19, 7, 16, 976, 57.
That's the budget committee number.
That's the number. But that is 40-some-odd thousand dollars less than what we're presented here.
We
Well, I
calculated.
understand that, but I don't know why,
I don't know why either. That's why I'm
but it's
raising
up
it
to them, not you.
It's gotta be in the buses.
Well, that's the other thing. Did you, wait a minute, did you add in the $40,000 that we added back into, that was right around that $40,000 that you're off? We voted
It's the bus.
the buses.
Transportation.
Did you add that in?
Yes, sir,
Then you were off by 80,000.
at one point.
No, we've got it in there.
Yeah, that's already in there.
Well, I mean, that's a, we gotta find a way to reconcile that $46,000 before we vote.
Just take it off, go with his number.
Well, yeah, you should, but again, he's got the budget committee number that we voted on.
Your vote, if the number's wrong, then the number, you know, you guys live with it if it's wrong, but, you know, we know that the numbers that have been, that you guys have voted on, we're comfortable with the numbers that our business manager has is very accurate based on the votes of this committee. So we're very comfortable with 19,762,016 being the number.
Yeah, I'm sure you're comfortable with it. Andrew,
Yes.
where did you get the number, how did you come up with the numbers you came up with?
I've reconciled two ways. I've reconciled to all of the voting that we've done according to information provided by Mr. Peoples from a couple of weeks ago,
In the minutes?
and my notes, as well as I've gone back and reconciled against every minutes and every vote that this
Yeah.
committee has taken. Again, excluding grants, because we haven't done that yet.
So if we had voted at our last meeting on the bottom line, it would be that number you're talking about.
19,716, 976. Yep. And if we assume that we're going to approve 575,000 for grants and food service budgets that we've already approved, the total would be 20,886,678.57.
Okay?
20,886,678.57.
So at some point in the meeting tonight, you're gonna make a motion to a bottom line number?
It's the committee's will. That's definitely our number and what I've reconciled in two different ways, too. But I understand that that's also different than what the school feels is the bottom line number.
But the budget hearing is a week from now,
That's my challenge.
and I'm not gonna be here Tuesday.
Me neither.
Right now, okay? Maybe we won't have a quorum Tuesday. So I don't see how you have any option but to do something tonight.
Yeah, I think we go with what you have tonight, and in the meantime, if we can find where the error is, then we can always revote it.
We can, make a change at the budget, after the budget hearing, if
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
well,
logical.
Yeah, either Tuesday night or the budget hearing,
I'm not
whatever.
gonna be here Tuesday, then.
I know, but I mean, we may have business that
And
carries
Ray's
over
not
to
gonna be here,
Tuesday.
and Dan, no, I mean, no.
Okay.
I mean, we have the mechanism at the budget hearing, if they find it,
Yeah.
to do it, but we really gotta nail a number down.
I don't know necessarily it's the responsibility of the school to find the error.
He doesn't have an error, John.
No, you don't know that, Bill. You can't say that.
No, you're saying his number is an error.
It could
And you're
be.
saying our number's in error.
No, I'm not, I'm saying his is the number.
Look, I think the
Yeah.
proposed recommendation of, let's vote a bottom line so we have a vote on record, okay? If we do a little bit of research, I have no problems reopening this and getting it corrected.
Yeah.
Zero problems
It's
doing
not about
that.
anybody's number being wrong, but I mean, if we vote what we have and they discover an error, it's not that we expect you to find the error. you don't have to go look for it if you don't want to either. But if we find an error,
Well,
then
that, you
everybody's willing
could,
to
it means we could
fix
go
it.
through this whole process, and the chair can walk in and say, I have a number of $18 million.
I have
And that's the
confidence,
number you guys are gonna vote. So what do we even do the process for?
I have
Would you like me to
confidence
recommend
in,
18
I
million?
have
Whatever you recommend, whatever you want, I
I have
guess. It
confidence
doesn't
in-
really matter.
Andrew, can I ask that you?
Please.
I just looked for that email. I've had a lot of emails.
Yeah.
Can you just send that directly to me, if you would, please, your reconcilement?
Is that okay, Mr. York?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
Thank you.
yep.
John, the process that this committee has followed since it was set up, is the budget committee goes through reviews, the chairman keeps track of the number, and we vote on the chairman's number.
And I understand that, Bill, but we've also had 3 different people that have kept track of the numbers, okay? And I don't, that's not a problem.
That's why we
That
have
have
minutes.
chaired the things. So there's been 3 sets of hands tracking and documenting the numbers. In our side, there's been one person who immediately makes the change after you guys vote and accept the change, just like Steve Martin did.
No, it didn't quite work that way initially.
John,
Yes,
I
it
used
did.
Frank's spreadsheet that he prepared to track the numbers that I sent to Andrew. So I entered it in there, and I sent him a copy of that as well as Andrew. So we know that was right. I used his method.
Well, I
Couldn't
know
figure
we've
Andrew's
had
out.
conversations, the 3 of us on this, as we've been going through after this, to what are the changes that you guys have voted on, and what is the bottom line as we left every day.
I am okay, through the chair, with, as long as we have the opportunity, again, I apologize for not getting on that. We,
Sure.
had our hands a little bit tied up with getting a truck delivery of oil. But I would be more than happy, Andrew, to get back to you, take a look at that, and then I appreciate the support from Mr. York, but there could be a number in here that just isn't adding up correctly. We'll go back and forth, and we'll find it.
Sure,
Yeah,
thank you.
come to an agreement.
So before we vote on a bottom line, we need to review grants and have a motion for grants.
I'll make a motion to move a grant budget of $575,000.
We have a motion. Unfortunately, our details in the hard copy do not support $575,000.
And
Letting you know.
I do not have a new set of details, so.
I have 340,090.
If I may, Mr. Chair, through the,
Yes.
this is my first experience, quite frankly, of bringing grants to a budget committee. And as you may or may not know, grants are not provided to the district. We will not know our grant amount for fiscal year 2015 until sometime this spring, usually around March or April. So to the extent that we can project what the federal government's going to do with our Title I, our Title IIA, and our, so I don't know how the Budget Committee, quite frankly, has handled that in the past. We can put together a budget for you, but to the extent, tell me what you're looking for in that.
Well, it's a wash. The problem.
It is a wash.
We
That's,
get
And-
told
and
how
so-
much
so-
money we get,
We
we
get
spend
told-
it, occasionally we're allowed to hold money over and spend it the next year as a
18-month cycle.
carryover.
But
Yeah,
the only reason that we even vote on it is because when you put Article 1 together to go to the voters, which we vote on to accept, that number's in there, so,
But it is a wash.
and it's a wash.
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
wash.
Just like food service, we don't have any questions of,
No.
no questions. What's your number?
so I did go back to the 2 grant administrators, the Director of Curriculum and the Director of Special Ed, and they asked if we could put forth that same number as this current year. If you would like something in more detail than that, I could certainly give that to you. But again, it's very difficult to do and until we actually build the budget, if you will, for the grant itself.
So we have a motion by Mr. York. I will second it. Is there any additional discussion on approving $575,000? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstained. Motion carries 700.
Have you guys voted the food service?
Yes.
I think we
So, again, that, assuming that we had approved the 575, that was in my number that I had provided them a moment ago. The total budget is 20,886,678.57.
I'm sorry, 20,886.
678.57.
Thank you. 7857.
With subtracting out food service and grants, we're at 19,716,976.57, which is the same number I just mentioned a moment ago.
What was that number again?
19,716,976.57. Okay. Are we prepared to vote on the bottom line? Okay. I'll take a motion.
Pardon?
I'll take a motion.
I'll let the chairman make the motion.
Okay. Just so I'm clear, we are going to vote the 20,886,000, correct?
I don't know. Cindy, what do you think? Is the operating budget number or the total number? 'Cause we vote the total number when we do Article 1.
Right.
Yeah, I think right now, we approve our bottom line.
The 19 million.
And then when we approve the warrant article, we approve the 20 million.
Okay.
That would be my take, too.
So I'll make a motion to approve the bottom line budget of 19,716,976.57.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pascucci. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion carries 6-1-0. Okay.
No.
So in the Article 1 that we discussed yesterday, doesn't include
No,
those two,
no, 'cause that was just, as I mentioned to you last evening, that was just the operating side, and then once the Budget Committee voted on food service and the federal funds, we would add that to it, so that Article 1 will be all-inclusive.
so now I'm in a quandary. I have to move a budget number that the school board may or may not accept because of the difference with the Budget Committee. So I don't know if I can move an Article 1 warrant,
Probably not.
because I don't have direction from the board based on the fact that we have a $46,000 discrepancy.
By the next board meeting, we, with Mr. Cutter, will certainly have that reconciled, so we'll have that.
I understand that, but the board won't meet again until the 22nd.
But if you accept that, we've said that if you can come up with a difference, and
Right,
that we'll amend the number
right.
next week at the budget hearing. If you can
Right.
accept that we are honest and sincere, I would think you could move that number.
Yeah.
I'll bite my tongue on that one. I would agree with that in a very broad scope.
But aside from that, I do see Mr. York's quandary because he does not have the permission, and no one board member should make a decision without, can make those
At
decisions.
least two of them.
Well-
Maybe they'll come running through the door real quick.
But and that's I see your position, John.
Haven't seen the warrant Article 1 yet, but I assume it is the wrong number anyways, because it
It's
doesn't
not the
include-
wrong number.
Is there?
It is the number that we had to present. They were only presented last evening.
No, it should, when
Let
I
me
said,
finish.
when I say the wrong number, because it doesn't include food service.
Okay, but that doesn't make it the wrong number.
It is not the number that is going to be on the final
Correct,
article.
because they are draft warrant articles.
They are, that's correct.
Yeah. I wasn't implying your number was wrong. I don't know what the right number is.
That's okay. I
But
didn't
my
take that. I
point
just wanted
is,
clarification.
regardless, if he were to present
They still need to be
what
voted
what you,
on by
what
the
you have that
board.
they voted on,
Recommend and not recommend, correct.
we could not
Well-
approve that number that you have there right now.
Since the board didn't vote to accept or not accept the warrant as it stands today,
Right.
because we
You
had.
couldn't vote.
We
last
had a
night, so we
question
didn't
on
have
that.
the-
I will move forward a number for the budget committee to vote on, because the school board still will have an opportunity to accept or not accept that number.
Correct.
Okay.
Uncharted territories at times.
Well, I'm glad we're flexible, John.
I don't know if you guys have copies
Not
of
yet.
the warrant articles.
Okay.
I don't know, did we make copies of these?
We do.
Okay.
Tonight. Moving on to warrants?
Yeah, without,
Okay.
I'll let them pass them around real quick.
On the bottom of the article, it recommended the budget committee recommend the school board. If the school board doesn't like the number, they say, no, I don't recommend it.
It's coming around, last evening, presented to the school board was simply the content for warrant articles that have been up to this point discussed, and no official vote by the board was taken. As you can see, the dollar numbers were only plugged in to just reflect where we were going with the content. It was more of a discussion last evening, the order of the warrants after warrant number 1. I'll review them very quickly for you. On the back page of page 1 is again Article number 1, which will be changed to reflect the increase for food service that you have so voted tonight, the bottom line for the operating as well as the federal funds. As you know, the tax impact will change a little bit with the operating, will go down a little bit from the number that you used this evening. Article number 2 is the article for the collective bargaining agreement that was reached between the school board and the LEA, voted on Tuesday night by the LEA and Wednesday night by the school board, with the estimated increases, which is a calculation of the changes to the salary and benefits, as well as a reduction for the health insurance. And you can see the estimated tax impact for that as well. Article 3 is the school board requested a warrant article to address the need for the hiring of a part-time computer teacher at GMS. So that information has been plugged in with the amount as well as the estimated tax impact. Article number 4 is an article to take up to the amount of $50,000 in the unassigned fund balance at the end of this current fiscal year to be transferred to the capital reserve account for building maintenance. No tax impact, obviously, because that would be coming from the unassigned fund balance. There is no tax.
Actually, it is a tax impact, because if it didn't do that, you'd reduce the tax rate.
That's an argument that has
Not an
long
argument, it's a
standing.
fact.
There is no tax impact by DRA.
Again, I understand
Well,
that.
you can
But it is a
argue-
fact that your taxes will be up by that.
Okay. And Article number 5 is the school board had put together a subcommittee to look at some of the capital needs, and based on the recommendation presented from that committee to the school board, there is a warrant article number 5, which is to purchase $36,700 worth of equipment, to purchase security equipment necessary to upgrade the external access control and panic alarms at all 3 schools, Griffin, Litchfield Middle, and Campbell. And these are simply in draft form for content, and we will be completing, putting the numbers in there to finalize that and presenting them back to the board for their approval.
The school board voted on all of these last night?
No,
No.
didn't vote on any of them.
Didn't vote on any of them? Well, except the teacher.
Well, yes, we did. That was a 4-to-1 vote.
4-1, okay.
So we need to have the actual dollar figures by Thursday
For Article 1?
for all of these.
Well, yeah, we vote on these tonight.
Isn't it typical to have the school board voting within the budget hearing or not?
Ideally, both the school board and the budget committee
Correct.
have made their recommendation, because you're gonna present this to the voters.
Right, and we're not gonna have the school board side for budget hearing, is what I'm hearing.
It sounds that way,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
But that's not to say the budget committee
Oh,
won't have a
right, we can move
recommendation.
forward, sure. Okay.
So on Article 1, we need whatever the number is that you have to be plugged in here and voted on.
Well, since there are warrant articles,
Yep.
the school board will move Article 1 of $20,886,678.57.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. York. I will second that because I agree with that number. Additional discussion?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, can you say that number one more time?
20,886,678.57.
Which includes grants and
Correct.
food service. Gotcha.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right,
Abstained? Motion carries 6-1-0.
and then in Article 2, the school board moves a warrant article amount of $213,383.
We have a motion by Mr. York. Is there a second?
Second after discussion.
Second by Mr. Peoples.
If we approve the 213, well, it's not $213,000 really. It's a total of all those numbers over the next 3 years.
Right.
No, but you raise and
No.
appropriate the
Right.
first year.
First year.
So you don't have, but my question is, the second and third years are incorrect based on what we got tonight.
Yeah, 195, 637,
And
186, 021.
So the raise and appropriate amount is correct, but then the two other years that are given,
I like these numbers better. We should go with it.
I don't really care which numbers we go with, I just want to know which are the right numbers.
The only important one is the first year number.
Right,
Yeah.
but the
The other 2 years
information,
are wrong anyway.
the information.
They're going to be wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong,
Yeah.
have
All
to
it
be.
takes is
They're-
healthcare changes and stuff
they're
like that.
estimates.
Yeah.
But I just want to know which of
Yeah.
which ones should we go with?
These are the numbers that
Okay.
should be accurate.
So the school board will be adjusting.
Yeah, I
Good
mean,
observation.
we've, the numbers, the school board is very comfortable with the numbers. We've just asked some questions on wording and stuff, so
We made
that's,
some adjustments today to the longevity. We made an adjustment down to the longevity. Again, I want to be real clear that this was intended last evening for discussion on the content with the board, not the numbers. Because we were still finalizing the numbers, and we just made an adjustment today on the longevity number, which will bring the second year and third year down. So it's up to the budget committee to vote. It's at their, you folks can do whatever you need to. This was only for discussion purposes last evening at the board level.
Are you comfortable with the year 1 number? The 213,000? Because that's the only
Yeah.
one we're voting on.
That's the only appropriation.
Yeah,
But
that's the only
Year
one
2
we're
and
voting
3 need to be adjusted on the longevity.
Well, we're voting on that, but we're really voting on the whole 600,000.
No, well,
No, you're not.
you're
You're showing your support if you vote yes to the people.
Right, you're showing your support for
Ultimately,
600,000.
the residents are going to be the ones deciding whether or not this contract. will go for 3 years.
I mean, there's some good things in here, and there's some not so good things.
True.
Additional discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from voting on this because
Right. So
I
we
would
made-
prefer to have a week in between seeing and voting,
Yep.
which is what our general routine has been. So I'm going to abstain, because I haven't seen enough to digest what's going on, and I'm not going to do it tonight.
Okay. Additional discussion?
I agree with Bill in that. I mean, we got this, we haven't even had time to barely digest that.
Okay. It's the committee's will if you would like.
I think you should take a vote.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? The Budget Committee has no authority to change the contract, so you're voting on the merit of the financial aspect of it.
Yeah.
You can't really change the numbers because they're built into the contract.
Right.
So why would we delay
I'm sorry?
Why would we delay the vote? And I know you're saying not delay the vote, but I'm just curious as why there's a question.
Because based on reading the information presented, that helps the committee members decide whether to support it or not.
Yeah.
It's not that it's going to change numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a fundamental problem with step systems, step tables, but that's a bug with me. But I'd like to really understand what's
You like
going on
ours
there.
then,
Okay?
Okay, well, why don't we vote?
Well, I was going to suggest, why do we need to vote? As long as we present the information to the voters on.
Oh, we have to.
Can we vote prior to the meeting, prior to the hearing, I mean? Because I agree, last year, everybody complained, you got presented information, you voted that night, and then a week later, everybody had a hissy fit because now they didn't think they understood it, it was different, da-da-da-da. Let's avoid that. Not saying it's gonna happen again this year, but
It won't.
let's avoid it. Let's
technically-
take the week, let's read the information. If we need to have a short meeting before the hearing, then let's do it and vote on those numbers there.
Technically speaking, the warrant articles don't have to be presented
Yes, they do.
till a week. You can present them, but we're not obligated to vote on them before a week before the hearing of the 5th. And I would imagine the Budget Committee would fall under that same process. So you can present the warrant articles, but I don't, well, you can change your minds because you felt you could change your minds last year.
Our process is to have a budget, and the budget hearing is set. And
Correct.
when we go to the budget hearing, we have to have our recommendations then and there. And we can come in with a recommendation of recommended on the contract, we can come in with not recommended, or we can come in one that says recommended with abstentions. I mean,
Well,
so that's the whole gamut, but we have to have a recommendation at the budget hearing.
Well, the school board's vote was a vote of that the voters should decide. And that's the vote that the school board
Yeah.
voted when they moved it forward. We believe that it should be,
Then if.
go to the voters.
And,
But even if you-
excuse me, and if it is an issue of let the voters decide, then they should say, we all abstain. We don't have a recommendation.
Right. I mean, even if all you guys voted no, it's still going to the voters.
No, it wouldn't have, but that'd go back to negotiations.
And if this whole group said no, it's still going to the voters.
Then it would still, yes,
Yes.
but with a vote of, one of us would vote to support it.
Yeah.
Okay. I recommend that we still proceed with voting, mainly because we have full committee member participation tonight, and we will not on Tuesday. I don't want to have a meeting in advance of the budget hearing, because I don't know if we would be able to have that televised. I want to make sure that any votes that we do are televised.
Or minimally recorded anyway.
Minimally recorded, correct. Okay? So we have a motion by Mr. York, a second by Mr. Peoples. Final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained?
All right.
Oof. Motion carries 3-1-0, or 3-1-3, excuse me. 3-1-3.
I think there's 4 yeses.
Yes, there were. You're right.
3, 4.
4, 5, 6, 7, oh, there's 8, excuse me, you're right, 4-1-3. I miscounted.
It's up to 8.
Thank you, Mr. York. Okay.
Article 3, this is to add a teacher at the GMS, move an amount of $25,662.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. York,
Second.
second by Mr. Spencer. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 8-0-0.
Move a amount of $50,000 from end-of-year funds to be placed in the capital reserve fund.
Motion by Mr. York. I will second. Discussion?
I have a question. If the $50,000 in the fund balance is all from the sped account, you're gonna use it to fund this?
It's the unassigned fund balance in the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. It doesn't designate where that money comes from.
I'm
Or
sorry?
it doesn't come from. Why would we segregate out that? Is there a requirement?
Well, because it's been a general policy of the school board that if we approve the sped budget and there's any money left over in the sped budget, it doesn't get spent. It gets returned to the taxpayers as part of the fund balance.
I'm
That's
unaware
been,
of
that
that.
has been the general policy year after year after year.
This warrant is simply to take whatever the unassigned fund balance is at the end of the fiscal
I know what it says,
year.
that's why I asked the question, Frank.
I think by law, if there is an unassigned fund balance and this has been approved, it has to, wherever it came from. I don't think the school district has the option to say, well, it came from special ed, we can't do it.
I'm asking the school district if they're gonna honor what they've been saying.
I
year
don't
after
think
year.
legally they can, is what I'm saying.
Well, they can.
Accounting-wise, we can't. We
Yeah,
can't
this is up to $50,000, and if the
We don't set the
$50,000
unassigned
is
fund
all from the sped, then they just say we don't use any of it.
No.
You can't do
was-
that.
Yes, that's was tried in the past. If you have $50,000, you have to put the $50,000 in. You can't say, we're only gonna put 20 of the 50 in. You can't choose not to put it in if it's available.
In fact, it's even more specific under the DRA. We have 10 days, once it's declared the unassigned fund balance, if this warrant is approved, we have 10 days to transfer that money out of the operating account to the.
Gotcha.
So we do not declare the unassigned fund balance, our accountants, the auditors
Yep.
do. So when we get that finalized and we get that report in, again, DRA tells us if that warrant was approved,
Yep.
if you must transfer up to $50,000 into that capital reserve fund. No, we're not discretionary. There's no discretion on the part of the school district on that.
Okay. Motion and second and final discussion? Yes.
Final discussion, if we vote no on that, if it gets unapproved, does it go back to the general account, or does it go back to the taxpayers?
It stays in the general fund, correct? It's
If-
just
if-
not,
if-
it's not assigned. It's not
You mean if the
appropriated.
voters vote it down?
Right.
It stays in the fund balance, which then is used to reduce the tax rate
Right.
in
Okay.
December, November, December.
Now, there's no legal way to put in there unless, other than the sped fund,
I
right?
think she's right. In fact,
Okay.
I know they're right.
You see, that throws,
Throws away the discretion of the voter, really. Once it's done forever.
I mean, because I agreed with this, but Bill made a very good point, because there always was an agreement, which was always mutual, that, look, there's so many unknowns in the sped that, you know, you can't go crazy. It's a wild guess, so therefore, if there's extra, that's always kind of put aside, even though it can't legally be put aside.
But there have been times where when the unassigned fund balance has been special ed monies, and the school district has informed the budget committee of a very valid reason to use it for something else, and the budget committee has weighed in on that. So it's not like it's never happened before, it's usually a mutual agreement.
It's always been the argument of why we shouldn't reduce the
It's
sped
absolutely
budget.
always been the argument, and that has happened, that it's been set aside. But I'm just saying there have been a couple of instances where the budget committee has agreed it's a very good reason to take some of that money and use it for.
And I agree, and I think that is a valid discussion when the time comes, but this is, if this passes, it's giving up that right. That right doesn't exist anymore.
Well, the discussion is simply happening now. Is emergency funds for buildings a valid reason? And that discussion is happening now rather than 6 months from now.
Is this a one-time article?
Yes.
What is in, just so it's clear for everybody that may be watching, what is in the building maintenance capital reserve fund today?
About $3,000. I don't have the
There was-
exact penny, but it's
There was approximately.
estimate?
a rough estimate.
I think there was $58,000 last year, and then there was a $52,000 transferred from the capital reserve into the general fund. So it leaves about $3,000.
So this fund is, for the most part, depleted,
Yes.
and you're looking
Yes.
to replenish.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was established in 2004, 10 years ago, when they
I
finally.
mean, this
used
is
it last year.
an article that would have been in last year's warrant article, except the board elected to go in a different direction.
Okay. All right, motion second, final discussion again? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Mr. Spencer, did you vote? I didn't hear.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so motion carries 7-0-1.
710.
710.
Why do I keep screwing that up? 7-1-0. Thank you.
And then our Article 5 is a warrant article to appropriate the amount of $36,700 to put in security equipment in the GMS, LMS, and CHS schools. Basically, these will put panic alarms and all those, but also will give us a access panel systems in the schools to get in and get out. It'll allow us at times, as the process continues, it'll allow us that if somebody's coming into LMS or GMS to use just the gymnasium and the rec department, it will allow us to lock down the rest of the school, and they'll only be able to come in and use certain parts. I don't know if that's all will occur in this expense. Right now, we're looking at the primary entry points into it, into the schools, and some of the schools don't have a panic process other than a 911 call. So we are going to be looking, we have our committee doing that, but this is something we felt is important to get in place now as we're going through the process of looking to enhance some of the security in all three buildings.
Okay. I will second that motion. Discussion?
Second.
I already seconded
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry.
All those
thought I
in
heard-
favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye,
Motion carries 7-0-1.
and I abstained for the same reason that I abstained on the other ones. We should have had this beforehand.
What else, Mr. York?
Do we have anything else?
Just a quick informational update for folks.
Please.
Kindergarten and grade 1 registration, January registration occurred last night at GMS. And if you look across the chart, the top row in the yellowish brown is registration from this January, January of 13, 12, 10, 11. The counts for all of the other years are from the last week of January, and this is from last night. Remember, we did RIF a grade 2 teacher in the budget process, the board did. Based on two things, the fact that the projections indicated that we were below the threshold, and as well as a relatively small number of kindergarten enrollments. If you look at kindergarten enrollment from 2010 up, 66, 51, 45, 42. But if you look at that 42, it hasn't translated into lower grade 1 registrations at this point in time. So what I did was I calculated the percentage increase from January to the next September for the 4 prior years, and there's a lot of variability to it. From 2010, there was a 15.1% increase in grade 1 registrations from end of January to September, 6.3%, 32.4%, and 23.3%, and those percentages correspond up top with a projected enrollment number. 84 students would be 5 classes according to the board policy. So 2 of those increases would result in numbers that are either over or at the threshold for a fifth, and the other 2 would be beneath that. It's for information only, not asking anyone to take any action, just to, we normally keep track of it at this point in time. So, information for the pile.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So as far as the school, we're good until next Thursday?
Yes, and I will definitely be in contact with you, Frank,
Yes, please.
probably tomorrow morning. That's okay?
I'm actually out of the office tomorrow morning.
Okay?
Did you send that file?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm checking up on you. I just want to make sure that I'm going to get it as
Okay.
far as my system goes.
Okay.
Monday?
I'll make sure to follow up with the SAU tutor, so we can make sure we have an answer on that.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you will.
Might be a ganged up one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
That concludes the school portion of the agenda. Moving on to town.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Give it a moment for a few members to get situated. Thank you very much.
Okay. This will be fast and furious.
My agenda says until 10.
I'm concerned because, I'm concerned because Cindy just pulled out her laptop and that just doesn't make me feel good.
That's a public input.
That's because all the town stuff is still on the.
We try to make it as simple as possible.
Moving on to general updates on the town.
Yeah, so since our last meeting and today, the board has met one time, I believe, on the 30th. That's where we pretty much finished up our end-of-the-year business. Did a budget review where we're at. It's safe to say at this point, the end of the remaining funds available in the appropriation from last year was under the $30,000 mark. We did not do any new appropriations. Well, I stepped back. The only appropriation we did in encumbrance was our code red, which we do traditionally. So that was $2,800. Other than that, we did not touch any 2013 dollars, just because the budgets are too tight. We did re-encumber past actions around, encumbrances that didn't get completed or projects that were in 2013 that were delayed due to other issues, so those were encumbered. But no projects were pulled in out of 2014 into the 2013 budget. The board also took action on a 3.5-year effort to revise the townwide wage plan. This process started about 3.5 years ago, and we finally started becoming middle summertime, they were moving towards a plan that was going to work. That was done and approved. I know that was forwarded to this committee on the 2nd for review. The wage plan?
Yep.
Yep, on the 2nd. The highlights in the wage plan, first off, it's moves towards a merit system, no longer a step program. All positions have been identified and positioned in the wage plan as a start and a high, so start, mid, and high. Employees will sit somewhere in there. We have outliers. We have some people that don't fit the plan. They won't, nothing will change in those folks. But this allows the board to administer the compensation of the employees in a little better way. There's no more guaranteed step increases or movement through the process. You need to earn it. And that's the basic ones. Like I said, we sent out, like I said, we sent out the whole thing for your review. You see what it is.
I didn't bother opening it, John, because I was concerned about emails, discussions about things we hadn't even been presented yet, and we got burned last year. I didn't want to get burned this year, so I
Just to
haven't
be
even
clear,
looked
there
at
were
it.
no email exchanges whatsoever
Yeah.
between myself and the committee. There were no exchanges of voting, how we were going to intend to vote, et cetera.
Yeah, so I know that the plan was posted in the public. That's fine. Perfectly fair. The mechanic, to me, the mechanics are irrelevant. That's the Board of Selectmen's position. They've created the plan, the process. I'm coming forward tonight and I'm asking to add some funding for it, and we can discuss it. I did ask Jason to join because Jason does understand the mechanics. He's been involved in this in 3.5 years. So with his help, we can help you with the mechanics. But I think it's safe to say that, this plan gets the town in a way that our employees want to compensated based on the market. And the market is the municipality market, it's not the private market. But it moves us towards a private kind of model where employees don't come get a job when they start and get moving through the process because they sit in a seat. They earn it, they work for it. Not every employee gets a merit increase every year. It's based on performance, it's based on longevity and all that. So again, it's a change, and I think it's a good change for the town. It also addresses a plan that's been in place since the early 1990s and hasn't been touched. The last movement on that was when when a cost of living across the board was approved back in 2010. And the other thing I need to know, this is not a COLA. We're not even intending to adjust everybody's pay. This is, they're going to get put into the market segment. That's where they'll sit. They'll live within that based on their performance when we start the plan. It's a 3-year phase-in plan. It's going to take us 3 years to get to full implementation, and even then, after 3 years, not all employees will benefit from it. You know. And as far as the discussion, I know the chair asked if there was any questions to forward it directly to the chair, as we've done in other discussions, so that when we came tonight, we had the questions answered, so we weren't delaying anything.
There were no questions presented.
Right.
But this is the first time we're being presented with this.
Presented to me as chair to forward on. If you have
To the
questions.
committee, this is the
correct.
first time
Well,
it is officially being presented to the budget committee.
Absolutely
So-
correct.
Tonight.
For the budget committee, the request will be, we're going to request reopen personnel and add additional funding. That's the request. The mechanics.
Let's wait until we get to that.
Okay. The other thing I need to let the committee know is that we do have another wrench in the cog here. We have been notified by Health Trust that they're going to be giving us another refund and an increase, so we have to make some adjustments. The Board of Selectmen has not seen that yet. It's in their prep work for next week, so we haven't voted on it. I just let you know that prior to the budget hearing, potentially, we may want to open that back up, vote it in, and move it forward or afterwards, so.
Is that revenue?
It's both. It's about $6,000 gross. We're paying out, I think, about 4 and keeping about 2. So yes, we will be adjusting revenues and adjusting that line in personnel admin to pay out.
So, it's simple
It's a
enough.
net positive for us, though.
Yeah.
It's in the noise, so.
Yeah, it is, but the board has to take action on it, and we need the budget committee to also take action on it. We also, I think prior to our last meeting, we approved all our budgets, all our warrants, so you have that. I do have copies of the warrants here, which we can go through too.
Do we have an approved bottom line yet for the town?
Not yet.
I can tell you what we think it is.
I can tell you what I think it is.
I'm worried
too.
about what it is.
I think the other topic is the default. All I can say about the default budget at this point, it's still, the Board of Selectmen has not seen the completed default. It's still being reviewed by the attorneys and DRA. We'll be taking action on that on our Monday meeting. But just to jog everybody's memory, I believe the budget committee's approved bottom line, and see if we're in sync, because I like to see if we're doing a good job here. It's $5,130,168.
Oh, see, we're off.
By $1, right?
2. $5,130,166.
That's fine. Yeah, so we're always off by $1 somewhere. So that's where we're at. I would like to make if we can move into the voting aspect, because that's all my general updates, unless there's any questions regarding general.
Damn.
What?
Nothing, my hearing aid just died on me.
Need a battery? Sorry. The only other thing I would say is that, as you probably recognized, we've had a real rough winter so far. That is also what's putting pressure on last year's budget and this year's budget. We'll be fine, but it's tighter than it's ever been in the past. So,
Tighter in terms of salt and sand?
the use of that, but not just that, we typically try to stay, we're less than 1% of our appropriation, and that's, a nervous factor. So, as you know, we can't spend beyond the appropriation, so hence the reason why the board chose not to even take any small dollars out of what we were projecting as potential fund balance or appropriation balance at the end. How would you want, do you want to go through the warrants first and do voting, or do you want to do the vote?
I would think we'd vote the bottom line first, because that's warrant Article 1.
All right, so can we go and reopen the line I need to reopen first, and then
Yes.
see where that fits? And we'll go from there.
You can make a motion to reopen it.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to do that. I'd like to make a motion that we reopen account 4155.10 Personnel Administration.
No, I got a cramp.
We have a motion by Mr. Brunel. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Bork. Okay. Discussion?
Motion to reopen, okay, in your personnel administration?
Yes.
Why are you reopening that one?
We're reopening because we would like to make a request to add an additional $30,000 to the bottom line to fund the new wage plan that was approved by the Board of Selectmen on December 30th.
But that wage plan gets applied against different accounts in there.
That's right, but we're only,
And so we have no idea where that's being applied across.
That's correct.
correct, but we're doing,
Line items you should have reopened rather than,
No, we're not going, right, the way the plan is set up, it will be, that amount will be allocated across to get moving in that transition. And it will be across multiple departments and affected people to get there. Some of it will stay in personnel because obviously the 30 is all inclusive. So that's taxes, wages, benefits, retirement, the like. So,
I will need an allocation once
you-
it's
what?
figured out.
will-
You
right.
you will have an allocation next year when you are reviewing budgets.
because if this part, the plan doesn't go into, the plan, we wouldn't enact the plan until April 1st.
Right.
So,
Right.
and at that point, all the department heads would have to merit, they'd have to performance review and identify employees that need to something, and we also have some employees we know that we're gonna do something about. Again, it doesn't impact all employees at this point. But, yeah, the Board of Selectmen put it into the Personnel Administration as a lump sum, so that once, if the, is approved, the board has approved the operating budget, that when we'll reallocate as we always have.
John, my problem is multiple. One, you've been working on it for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
As we reviewed the town budget this year, we asked, did you have COLAs in there?
We don't.
No, but there was no indication that you're gonna be coming forward with a different wage plan at all. So to me, this came in at the very last minute to us as the budget committee and leaves me in a situation like it did with the contract, as far as I'm concerned, of seeing something that I don't understand, expecting to review it tonight for $30,000, and we spent a lot of time on $30,000 budgets and didn't vote on the same night, and then being expected to vote on them the same night. And I'm not gonna do it.
Well, there's a motion and a second on the table.
There is.
So,
Right, to reopen it.
to
To
reopen,
reopen,
so
yeah.
let,
We haven't voted on that yet.
well, let's vote on the
I
reopening.
would just,
yeah.
Bill, I would just say that if you follow the Board of Selectmen's meetings, and I know there are some folks in this room that do,
I have to,
This has been-
shouldn't we vote on, because there's a motion and a second on the table, for discussion?
we're still discussing.
Still discussion?
This
Why
is
we wanna
still
open-
discussion on why we're gonna reopen
Right,
or
but
not.
I would just say that for the folks who do follow the Board of Selectmen, this has been a topic that has taken hours and hours of our meetings. It's within our minutes. I agree, maybe we didn't have insight. To be honest, we didn't know what the costs were gonna be to implement. We've talked in the past about $18,000, $20,000 when we were trying to just do some adjustments without adjusting the wage plan. People did not want to see that happen. People wanted to actually see a plan that made sense and actually move the town forward, and I think this does. I mean, you made a statement earlier, you don't like step programs. This removes the step program. This works more like the private sector does. And it's a change for our employees, too, so there's gonna be some, there's a lot of learning curve here for everybody.
I'm not talking merits at this point then.
Okay. Additional discussion on the motion to reopen the line. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained. Motion fails 4-0. Right?
If it was 4-0, yeah.
Yep, due to lack of second.
Yep.
Okay.
So the bottom line remains $5,130,168.
Now, could I make a comment, John?
Sure.
Deliberative session? Bring it forward.
Yep.
And then explain to everybody what you're trying to do with it.
Yep, that's fair. And was our, phase two. or
I would
phase-
like to been able to sit down and digest just what you're doing and why you're doing it. But as I said, I didn't open that email because I felt I'd be burned if I opened it.
I don't understand, you've received other supporting requests and actions from the board and reviewed it as
That
part of your-
email, I suspected was a sales job on why you're doing it. Okay? And that's why, again, my.
Well,
take-
actually, Bill,
Yeah,
so I believe you posted the wage plan on the board, as I understand.
I put the dollar impact,
Yeah, so,
which you gave me.
Yeah, no,
Gentlemen, I
that's
think
fine.
it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
because we have
No,
a
it
lack
is
of a
relevant. I
second.
just want to make clarify, because what I tried to do, because the existing wage plan has been around forever, and everyone just thinks it's just paper that sits around. We had a real difficult time trying to figure out when it was enacted.
I agree with you 100% on
So,
that.
when I sent off what the Board of Selectmen approved, that was the first email. The second email was just, guys, this is so you understand where the board started and how we got where we're at, what we were trying to accomplish. And so we gave you what the old plan was accomplishing, what the problems with the old plan was, and why we did what we did. It was all about the context of understanding what we were
And to me,
doing.
that is the discussion that should take place within this committee meeting as to what you're doing and why you're doing it, not via email. That's all.
Yeah,
You know,
that-
when I send emails out, I don't advocate, I send out, here's the information, here's
Well-
what the history has been, and that's it.
Yeah, I wasn't sending emails to support the 30, what we were asking for. It was more about the plan change.
Yeah,
So
and
you
I just
understood where we were.
yeah.
The plan change is the Board of Selectmen's preview, and that's their job to do that, and they did that, so.
Yeah, and I know it is. And I just didn't want to get burned like we did last year.
That's fine.
So before we move on, so I guess the next step is to vote bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to move the bottom line on the town of $5,130,166.
68.
66.
Chairman's number.
I'll give it $2.
Second.
Second by Mr. Peoples. Discussion?
Just
Okay.
have a question, the
Yep.
way it's worded. When people look at this and see estimated tax rate impact, they're gonna think it's a $3.59 increase. Is
Well,
that
we're
what
not,
it
we're not
is?
on the warrant yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were.
Can I make a motion to amend that number?
Yep.
I'd like to amend that number to 5,058,566.
5,058,566.
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Pascucci. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second by Mr. Peoples.
And what was that number again? and what's
Five.
Five million, oh, 58,566.
The way I figured this out is obviously we had conversations and discussions on all of these budgets, and we voted on them in each line, and, everything looks good when it's in each line budget, and it all makes sense to a point. And then when I looked at the total picture, and I went back thinking what Mr. Brunel said, that pretty much all of the increase, or most of the increase, was due to personnel, administration, and water. So I went back and I looked at what your budget was, you had to work with this year, which was $4,975,066. And I added to that the Social Security taxes, which was, really no control over, because we've heard that a lot, is, stuff we're not in control, and I agree, which was $3,300. Medicare taxes was $1,200. I added employee retirement at $6,500, fire retirement at $4,800, police retirement at $29,000, workers' comp insurance at $6,900. I added the fire hydrants at $31,000, the street light increase, which we have no control over, at $6,000, assessing at $2,800, ambulance at $2,000. So basically, I added to what you are currently working with of $93,500. I added to that.
Did you also include the increase in the chief's salary and all that?
And then I deducted $10,000 for legal, which got me to the $5,058,566. I added the things that we really had no control over, and I do know there's always room in budgets and things could be moved around, and there is still even some left over this year, and this year's budget that we're working with was $70,000+ less of what was asked last year. So it goes to prove we do manage money well. We are able to make do when we are given a number. There's always a way to work it out. It's the tough decisions. It's managing to the bottom line. I think it's a fairer increase. It's still an increase, and it's still considerable. And the people that pay the taxes in this town that just had another tax increase with this last tax bill is going to get another tax increase. I mean, heck, even if they say no on everything, they're still going to get another tax increase, and it's going to tax increase after tax increase. And, you know, we have to, this board, or at least I believe I have to, recommend a budget to the voters that I feel is fair for all parties, including the people that have to pay the bills, taking into consideration many factors, not just what the town says they need or what the town really needs, but also what have to take into consideration with what people are willing and able to pay and afford. So the original first number we mentioned, I am not comfortable with recommending, and I could not put my recommendation on that one. However, I could put my recommendation on the number that I just proposed, which is still almost 100,000 more than what you had to work with this year.
So, I guess from a town perspective, it puts us in a little bit of tough quandary because you're not making direct cuts to any place.
I agree. And
But, hang on.
okay.
And the time to do that was when we reopened these budgets and we went through it. And in the last run-through of all these budgets, the only budget you were against was executive. Every other budget passed 7-0 on an average. And so I agree with you. I mean, your job is to do that,
Right.
but the time to do that, when we have all the experts and we're talking about those costs, and arbitrarily going on and say, okay, we can live with what we have. I just told you about the fact that we are very tight this year. We've already had a rough start to the winter. One of the reasons why we were not as bad off as expected is we had the FEMA refund in the beginning of this past year. So we were able to live within that because we got back a significant amount of money that we spent in the beginning of the year in snow removal.
There's always a potential of that happening again if we have a very bad storm.
But we can't do it
can't
there.
predict either way.
I mean, I almost go back to a comment that Mr. Cutter said, then what's the purpose of even going through this? If we come in here and we give you all the facts and figures, this is, and I know you hate when I say this, but this is a business, and we have to run a business based on the services we need to provide. I know there's a debate about what we need to provide, but the point being is that the voters have approved our employees that are in positions, has approved all of our contracts in the past with regard to the police department, has approved our changing of the fire department. All these are costs that we have to live within. And, costs are going up. And, if you look at our 2013 requested budget, the one that was defeated, we're not that much further off. I mean, those were the reality costs back then. Fuel costs are going up and all that. I would just prefer this board keep it as a habit to go in and actually reduce the lines that you're committed to defend, because it is the budget committee's budget, to defend that you're okay with it.
Sounds like we're able to do that.
Let me respond, please. A couple things. One is I did add the stuff the voters voted for and the stuff that's going up. I mean, we voted for the fire hydrant. Fire hydrants in the budget, so I added the 31. So I went that route. You're right. Most budgets, almost all, I did agree with. And, that's why I've always said, and I've said numerous times, when you look at everything in the little nicely packaged, it all looks good. So, I could have went through and just said no to everything, but, that wasn't, it looks good by itself. But then, and I do this in my own business and my own budget, and I have 25 employees, and I go through and, it all looks good. Everything makes sense. But then when I look at the big picture and I say, look, this is what I can get from my customers, and it's not going to work. So you got to cut to the bottom line, and then when we do, we figure out where it goes. So please don't hold that against me for, not allowing me to make a bottom line cut. As for the bottom line cut, sometimes we use sometimes we use when it's convenient for us. Well, it's got to be to the bottom line. It can't be, it's got to be to the exact line and not the bottom line. But then when it's not convenient, you go the other way around and say it needs to be the other way. So many times we hear, hey, it's the bottom line. We get to manage. We, the Board of Selectmen, manage to the bottom line, but we can do what we want. And that was proved because even last year, you take the bottom line and you play with it. And you buy something that maybe the voters said no, or you don't buy something. So don't hold me to the lines. However, I'm not prepared to submit it to a line. I'm not ready to do that. I'm submitting it to the bottom line, which I have the right to do. Everybody here could vote against my amendment, and that's fine. I'm just being upfront and honest with my rationale for it. I put a lot of thought into it. I am actually adding money. You know, a lot of people, it's how you look at it. You can say I'm subtracting a few thousand, but I'm adding almost $100,000 to your current budget. So I'm not prepared, and I'll vote no with the other number. It's not a threat, it's nothing. It does, you know, if you don't think it matters what my vote is, then vote against me and we're fine. But I would be prepared to sell this budget to the voters at the number that I just, and I would proudly sell the budget and explain to them why I came up with that number.
So, go ahead.
So Chris, I appreciate the approach. I mean, I agree, you're being as fair as possible. My concern is really about, we've been through this process, this is the Budget Committee's budget. So, based on that, where does the Budget Committee want me to remove this funding?
I would say wherever you feel necessary.
But no, at this point in time, you're presenting to the voters that this is your sound budget, and this is what you believe these departments are gonna be running with. So, it's not my budget again until the voters approve it.
Right.
And you're right, at that point, we'll readjust as we believe the priorities are, because that's what we have to do.
So right now, my recommendation is to remove it from the bottom line. I'd be more than happy, if it passed and the voters vote for it, to sit as in a community input at the Board of Selectmen meeting and offer my input at that point. But I do have the right to do the bottom line number, and I put a lot of thought into these additions that I added.
It just hasn't been a practice of the committee in the past.
I know it has, and that's fine.
And we're all stuck about process in this committee, just like going forward to deliver, with the votes and all that. It's been a practice, and it's not been a practice for this committee to reduce that significantly without telling the Board of Selectmen your opinion and where it should come out of.
I recognize we have a motion and a second. Before we move forward with voting on that, one general question. Do you have the default budget information available tonight?
As I said earlier, I don't have one I can share yet.
Okay. So either way,
Still being developed.
we wouldn't be able to vote on that Article 2.
Correct. Right.
How did you handle the school? Isn't the school, aren't they in the same boat?
They have no default, and you voted it.
Correct.
Because the default's what the default is.
Yeah.
You're voting on-
We're not voting on the default number.
Right, it's in there
Right,
because it
you're-
supports Article 1, but that's not the number you're gonna consider anyway.
This isn't important, nor does this play into my decision, but I mean, from my rough calculation of the default, it's going to be less than the proposed because of the police cruisers not being in there and some other issues, so.
Just to be clear, the
I-
default budget is mentioned in here, in this article.
No, it's
that we-
mentioned, but it's not, you're right, but you're not really voting that number.
But
That number is,
well, I understand that, but I have a visual understanding of what the number is in comparison to the operating
I
budget.
can give you
don't have that
my
today.
visual if you like.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's $5.1 million.
Yep.
Round numbers.
round numbers, 5.1 million.
And that has not been touched by the Board of
Yeah,
Selectmen.
and you can change that right up to the last
Right.
minute.
And I will tell you that it will be a very long discussion come this Monday, as it always is, because we do try to treat, I mean, using the RSA and the way that's constructed, that's the number today. The board may take action to reduce or, the one-time stuff that goes out there that hasn't been already reduced, so. But at this point, it's $5.1 million.
So we have a motion by Mr. Pascucci to reduce the bottom line by $71,600
602. Nope. Time.
to $5,058,566.
I have a question.
66, I wrote down. There you go.
How we got presented a teacher's contract tonight, and members of this committee said they didn't feel they could vote on it because this is the first time they're hearing it, they haven't had a chance to go through the details. We had Mr. Brunel asked to open a line because there was some more information and new plan. Again, this committee voted that down because they said, you know what, we don't have enough time to go through it and understand it. This is the first we've heard of it. How can we vote on that? How is this any different? This is the first time we've heard, we've spent weeks going through this budget.
Yep.
And boom, tonight we hear, well, I did this, I took this, I subtracted this, I added this, and I said this, and I did this, and I did that, and I came up with this. How are we supposed to vote on that when this is the first time we're hearing of it, other than the discussions where we've already approved the number we've come up with, approved? So how are we supposed to make a decision on that tonight?
I completely agree, right? When
That's-
we went through our 6-7 week period of reviewing the town budgets in great detail, in total, right, all of those cuts, all those reductions that we've made totaled $52,251. You are proposing even a greater cut on top of that. It appears, Mr. Pascucci, that I believe you were part of the early December meetings, which added monies back in to the budgets that were presented, correct?
Yep.
What are we getting?
That was this meeting right here.
Reconciliation.
We opened every budget because of all the health and personnel.
And now that's being rescinded, essentially, and you're making a bottom line adjustment.
Yeah,
So you voted
well,
for,
yeah.
and now you're cutting at the bottom.
yeah, but he has the right to do that.
Correct.
Oh, I understand. I'm
Has
just
the right
trying to
to do that.
understand the
We-
flow of how this is
The
working.
thing is, it's
We have
almost,
the right to
it's
vote
like
no.
it's like an earlier conversation we talked about as far as the school budget. We sit here weeks and weeks and weeks, this is my first experience of doing this, but weeks of doing it, and then we come to vote for it, and you decide, like, just cut. And you talked about, like, looking at the big picture. I mean, normally when you look at budgets, you do exactly what this committee did. You dissect it, and you look at it segment by segment, and that's what exactly happened. And it was all voted on, everything was okay, and all of a sudden the bottom line number is not, to your liking. All of a sudden you say, I want to cut it.
Correct, then you stand back and you look at the big picture.
No,
That is-
but
that's what it is.
you've already done that. You've done it every week. We've looked like different segments.
Right, and then you look at the big picture.
I understand there's a holistic.
Right,
there's a whole-
correct.
holistic
I agree. You look at, you have to dissect it, and then when you're done, you stand back and you look at the big picture and you take a lot into consideration.
Yeah, but that's what's needed. I mean, that's the thing. The big picture is what's needed. That's why it was voted on by segment.
Okay, yeah, segment, then the big picture, because you add all the segments together, and then you look at the whole. So, and that's what I did. So I agree. Hey, look, time is short. Time is short for everything this year. I mentioned it just at the beginning of the meeting or just before the meeting. I said, what's going on? It seems everything's the last minute.
Yeah,
So,
it's making it a real challenge putting
it
together. the
really
budget
is, but-
presentation.
You know, and you have to, you can only talk about the stuff here, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
Yep.
Nothing was done via email. I don't think I typed one email this entire year. Okay? So I'm following the process. I'm doing, the voters, we're here to, we also have to recognize, the Board of Selectmen represents a group, plus the town. The school board represents the school. Not saying it's right or wrong. It's right, actually. But we are elected for different reasons. We are to look at it all and to be advocates for the taxpayer. And we have to look at what are the taxpayers, $200, $400, $500, $600 tax increases year after year after year. I think Mr. York said it last year. It's not a matter of if a $300,000 house is going to pay $10,000 in taxes. It's a matter of when. And he said that during a meeting last year. I don't think the people in this town could afford it, and I think this town's going to change drastically because it's not going to be the town that the young married couple with newly kids are going to come to and buy a $300,000 house and pay 10 grand a year in taxes.
So I think it's fair what you're saying.
Okay.
But I would also expect if you're gonna make the same decision on the town side, that same logic would have applied to the school side. That the school was operating with X, plus your same theory of how you did it, that would be what you would actually recommend. But I didn't hear that. I heard you voted the bottom line.
I just need to respond to that, but I don't even think it's relevant, quite honestly. I understand why you're asking that, but I don't think it's relevant. I tell you why. I think I'm very, I ask many questions over the years fairly. I'm equally as tough with my questions. And I scrutinize everything. And I got to say, this year, I made very little or said very little during the school debate with cuts. I mean, what did I do? I cut parking lot sweeping and, a top dresser because I know the deficiencies in the school side and I know where we need to get to and where we need to build up to. And I know Dr. Cochran has a plan in place and I work toward it. But again, that's irrelevant to this conversation. It's a different budget. So, but I just needed to answer your question. Now, on the town side, I think there's room. Simply, I think there's room.
Shouldn't that come out during the actual individual budget?
Well, I did have some conversations during the budget, but again, you look at it in a little bubble and it looks good. Then when the big picture doesn't look good. So now,
When you look at the bubble, you're talking about the total
Each
impacts.
budget.
You're talking about the school, you're talking about the
No,
big
I'm talking
numbers.
the
You're just
bubble
talking
of
about the
each
town itself?
Well, you're right. Each thing here in the town, I got a bunch of tabs. Each tab looks good by itself. When you add them all together, it to me didn't look right to recommend to the voters to have
Mr.
that kind of
Spencer.
increase in taxes.
Yeah, I want to respond to Cindy a little bit, Brian. When we're asked to vote, as we have, on the bottom line, it is completely appropriate for a member to make an amendment to that on either side. And it's up to us as committee members to either vote it yes or no. And I know how I'll vote on it. I'm comfortable with the budget as proposed. But it is within that purview and our right, and we should be doing that if we feel that that's the way it is. Okay, and we've done it with the school budget in the past, John, okay? So I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Motion and a second. Final discussion?
This is on the amendment.
This is on the amendment to reduce the bottom line by $71,600 to $5,058,566. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained?
Aye.
Motion fails 171. So 161.
One abstention.
I don't know why. See, the problem is I'm watching you.
Six.
I gotta listen and not watch. Okay.
So we're back to the bottom line.
So we are back to the bottom line of $5,130,166. 161. Okay. I would like to make a motion to amend the bottom line by $33,961 to $5,096,205.
5,096,205?
Correct.
What was the first amount, 33?
33,961. And what I've done is, it's actually.
Is there a
Wait,
second?
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. Pascucci. What I've done is I've looked at, again, all of the areas that we've worked diligently on and reduced over our time reviewing the accounts. Added in the differential for health insurance across all of the lines, which equals $18,290. So when you look at the factors for health insurance and the main justification for why budgets were reopened and approved, it's $18,290. So I've simply taken that difference of $52,251, added back in the differential of $18,290, and got $33,961. You with me?
I'm lost. Because there's also some contractual things that got changed during that process, too.
Understood?
I don't see you.
I didn't add that back in?
I shouldn't say you have to.
You're increasing the bottom line by 33,000?
No, he's
No.
not.
Decreasing.
Decreasing it.
So you did, basically, what you did is you took only the health and dental changes that were traceable. All the other changes, up, down, otherwise.
We're gonna keep, is what my recommendation is. All the other reductions that the budget committee made over the 6-week period.
Right, but you only added back in the health and dental. So other information that came to us that we brought back in addition to health and dental from when you looked at it in October,
Yep.
you didn't add those back in. So there's
Correct.
potentially a part that
A small portion.
is not included there.
Yes.
Of new information that okay, all right. So that, just so we know where that came from. All right.
Again, my justification is, we've diligently reviewed these budgets. I've spent a great deal of time reviewing these budgets and analyzing the budgets. After reviewing the meetings and the minutes, again, it's my belief that the predominant increase was specifically due to health insurance, which is why I considered that and added that back into the adjustment. And that's why I'm proposing an overall reduction of $33,961.
I'm just confused of where the 33,000 is coming from still. Because that is not the only reduction. As a matter of fact, this committee, our board came back several times with even lower numbers than was approved prior to the budget committee, so I don't know where the $30,000 is coming from.
It's essentially coming from all the reductions that we've made, if we go back in time, minus what was added back in.
But you didn't reduce any of those items. You didn't reduce any labor, you didn't reduce anything there.
Yeah, I'm giving you the credit for that.
Did you, so you also didn't account for any of the changes in personnel administration, so places where we lowered or increased wages
So
for?
you're making it too complicated, right?
No, I think.
Because I'm afraid we're missing dollars. Yeah.
I just heard a previous vote with the same reduction that was, Mr. Spencer saying he's satisfied because we did all the right things. and you're still reducing by $30,000, and I'm still trying to figure out where that money's coming from.
Yep.
We have contractual agreements that I don't think you're including, because one of those adjustments was in the case of the police chief. He's contractually required to increase his pay.
Yep.
All right, that's not included. I just,
I'm puzzled too, because.
I'm
I thought that when
confused.
we went through the budget, and then you made all the adjustments at that last meeting, some of which I didn't agree with, but
Yeah.
we made them all.
Yeah.
And I thought we accommodated for everything, including what we had
Yes.
Exactly, we
reduced at
did.
the budget committee, and what you thought could reduce, and other things that you thought came in higher. And we came up with the numbers. I'm puzzled where this is coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some things increased, so it doesn't sound like you took into account any of the items that increased,
Except health insurance.
except health insurance.
Correct.
I think the problem is the bottom line went down even further than the budget committee recommended after we did the exercise, even with the increases.
Say that one more time. The bottom line.
The bottom line went down. There were net changes across all the items. Some went up, some went down, but the net it was still lower than the budget committee's recommendation at that time. Which, again, it's a practice we've done in the past, and I keep on wondering whether we should do it anymore, but, you know, I think you need to help me understand where this $30,000 is coming from, because we made a lot of actions, this committee supported it unanimously in most cases. There were some discussions,
Yep.
but it was majority approved. When I run through that, they'll vote for that day, I think, because I shared this with you, significantly, it was unanimous. That we agreed with the actions of the Board of Selectmen, and the Budget Committee supported them. In a lot of ways, they went down. Yes, there was
Myself,
discussion
regardless
around.
of being chair, myself as a committee member would not have agreed to any of that. Just my 2 cents. I will not be supportive of the 5,133,166 because I don't agree that that's a fair and accurate number for the community.
Okay.
All right, so what I'm doing is trying to come up with a compromise which I feel is fair for the community. Okay? We have a motion and a second. Final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye.
Abstained? Motion fails 2-6-0. Okay, back to the original.
I thought it was 3 for our turn. What was the vote again?
I counted
I
2-6-0.
thought I had 3. How'd you vote, right?
I voted in favor of.
In favor? You vote in
I
favor?
voted in favor.
You vote in favor, right?
Yeah, oh, you voted in favor?
Yes, I did.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I didn't catch you. Yeah,
It's
so
still
3-5-0.
Yeah, still felt that, yeah.
Okay. Back to the original bottom line of 5,130,166. Final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Abstained? Motion carries 5-3-0. Okay.
So 5,130,166.
Yes, sir.
Gotta move to warrant articles?
Please.
So, everyone should have seen these warrant articles in the past. What this paper is just the cleaned up ones, right? So the wording has been corrected, but the numbers haven't changed. The Board of Selectmen has voted on every article except for the operating budget, because we're still waiting for this final meeting to do that. So for Article 2, which is the operating budget, Jason, I don't know, can you recalculate tax impact with the new bottom line?
For the operating budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Give me
So I
a
know.
sec.
So Article 2 is to raise and appropriate for the operating budget of 5 million, which will be what you go forward with, 5,130,106, $5,130,166.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, yeah.
Which should have a tax impact of
Of $3.58.
$3.58, and that's the total impact.
That is the.
Total tax, right?
That is the total, that is the total tax.
So
Right.
$3.58 on 1,000.
Right, but the
Right.
impact is
Yeah.
the net.
Yeah.
The net from last year to this
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're gonna be
That's
thinking,
Shoot it right down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably fair. You guys comfortable with estimated tax rate?
Yeah.
Just estimated tax rate, period?
Yeah, the 8 million, yeah.
No, for that.
Well, the 359 is based upon that number, right?
Right, it is, so.
And what's last year's, the current tax rate for the town?
3, I should probably know this off my
And the
head.
impact
I have
is
it.
different.
It is
Yeah.
354.
354, so it's up 4 cents, 5 cents,
Yeah.
4 cents.
5 cents.
He said
359.
350.
Yeah, well,
Not
yeah, it's
359.
358. Your written copy,
Oh, okay.
yeah, with.
4 cents, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the impact.
So it's 4
A little better than 359.
Yeah, the tax impact.
Never put that on like that.
Huh?
I would never put that on like that.
Say that again?
I said I would never put that on like that because I agree, people are gonna go.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's 4 cents.
You won't get any votes.
No.
Yeah, good, we'll correct the wording and make sure the board
Yeah,
agrees.
let me make sure I can actually do it that way. Because I went back and forth on that one a couple times. We're doing this now based on the vote last year, based on the state law that
Right.
says, show the tax, the tax impact. I want to make sure that we're all clear that.
Can we also add a line that says this effect is a net
Represents tax
increase over
increase.
last year
Yeah.
by 4%?
If you're right, the town is wrong, and the school is wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't think they are.
we'll figure, we'll find out. So do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
I wasn't just, want to go home.
So what are we
Andy wants to
voting
drag it
on?
out to 10.
Yeah.
We are voting on Article 2 for a total operating budget of $5,131,66 plus, I guess, whatever the default budget somewhere in the 5.1 million vicinity will be.
Okay, because right now, we only voted 530 on the bottom line of the budget. Now we just got to vote, do we recommend it?
Correct the operating budget, yep.
But wouldn't the bottom line vote just be the same? mean,
I would think
guess
so.
I would assume
Well,
it's the same.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's
Never
true.
know.
Mr. Bork. Yep.
I always get, when we do the bottom line and we do this, like, isn't it
Right.
kind of redundant?
Right, this
Final
is
discussion?
recommending it to the voter.
Yeah.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion carries, I believe, 530 again, right? Okay. 530.
Okay, so Article 3, which is the road improvement article, this is that matching fund, which we're asking the residents to match our highway block grant of $170,000, which has a tax impact of 21 cents.
Second.
Did the road agent request this?
Yeah.
We have a motion by Mr.
Sure.
Brunel and a second by Mr. Pascucci.
Yes. Yes. There were, well, he made, so there were two approaches to this warrant. One, we were going for with a bond that would allow us to do 5 years of projects within one, funding-wise. And that one, we decided to not move forward with. This one will allow us to get 3 major projects done in this year if it's approved. Otherwise, we'll only get 1 major project done next year with the funding that we have.
Do we have an overall plan for this?
Yep.
Yes.
And we shared it back when we talked about the road agent's budget. We
I've
can
never seen anything in paper.
Yeah,
Never
I
seen
will
anything
forward
in
it out
paper.
again. I'll forward it out again. It has. The bottom line is that this year we finally finished our inventory, and the road agent and the engineers have identified they scored all the roads. And so this plan actually backs us into if we do nothing and go the way we are, it'll take 25 years to fix all our roads.
You know, this is just my past selectman world here a little bit. We commissioned and we had a plan, we had a database, it was at Town Hall, it had every road on a schedule, when it should be done,
Yep.
what the condition was.
Correct.
So, I'm a little confused why we keep circling the drain. I mean, we finished the inventory? We finished the inventory, I haven't been a selectman now for 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 years.
We finished it, right, we finished the inventory, we refreshed the inventory because things had changed, right? So if you recall, I mean, prior
Every
to.
year, they had a calculation in there, you can figure that if a road is this
And we
this
have that
age,
same-
it's gonna
the database
degrade
is-
by this percent.
And that database has been, basically reviewed again, right? Because all the roads do change over the years. So every year, we kind of go through the major roads. They've been all scored, and we're trying to address the worst, the worst of the roads first, obviously. So that plan is well-defined, and, Jack presented it to the board supports his scheduling and how he's doing it. Some of it is, roads based on cost, trying to get them done too. But this would allow us to get these three major projects done.
So I'm confused of why you would do anything based on cost versus based on need, right? Because the roads are from here to here in condition, so it doesn't matter what it costs. If it's in the worst condition, it should be done first, right?
But it can't be because we don't have the funding. Some roads, we have $170,000 roughly.
I understand the money piece.
Right, but that's the problem. So I can get a $130,000 project done and a $40,000 project done in year one, right? Or I could just get, 130 and carry the $40,000 over. We're trying to get as much done. We're basically going big fruit, little fruit, trying to get them all done, and the plan identified all that.
Yeah, I mean, what we took is to get everything that had a score, with the scores. So everything that had a 75 or below, what's it going to cost us to do that? That being our target group. At today's prices, so no cost escalators, no estimate. If we did them all at today's prices, it's $4.6 million. At our current rate of spend of $170,000, that will take us 27 and a quarter years.
You got some roads in this town, 35 years.
And that's the problem.
They
A lot of the
need,
roads were built at the same
Yeah.
time too, which is another challenge.
No,
we
I'm not
have.
arguing that, I'm just confused of why we wouldn't be targeting, say, in the old days, we used to put right in the warrant article that we were gonna do Pinecrest Road, Corning, blah, 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 and that was in the
Cost
warrant
repairs to
article, we knew
Cutler Road
upfront.
and
Well,
Sorry.
this,
And
this,
this actually-
this
these are in
article
the
is,
warrant
cut.
article.
This
Okay.
is to do, in addition to, this would
sorry.
allow us to get Cutler and Stark done. Cutler
sorry.
being
I
one of
didn't
the
see
big
that.
ones, but Stark
Yep.
being a small one because it fits the budget well, and it's on that list of needs the attention. If this doesn't pass, we still have a $170,000 block grant we potentially will get, and we have that, is it?
Mike.
It's Mike, that's on the target for the first road. So, and again, it's based on that inventory, based on the scoring, based on our ability to get it done within a year,
Look, I'm okay with this one. We need to obviously keep our roads maintained. We need to repave them. Once they start breaking up, they break up, and
and they just continue to break
so they
up.
got to get done. And when I think of things, I look at my business, and if something like this was in my business, I'd say, look, this is where the money has to go. This is the first place. Might have to cut back on salaries or some other stuff, but you need to do this, and so I'm for this one.
Yeah.
My opinion is that, I think the plan makes a lot of sense, I, again, question the timing of it. I understand that we have roads that are in need of repair, however, the budget's going up, again and again, right? Year after year, it's going up. So what is the appetite with the community for yet another increase?
And I think that's why it's a separate article and it's not in the operating budget. What is the appetite? The folks know what the roads are, they know what the road conditions are, they'll be able to vote that and vote their opinion at that point. I think we're asking for your support to let the residents make a decision.
Yep.
The challenge with roads is if it's not my road, what do I care? Right?
Well, that's
Well,
why.
eventually
what
your road's gonna be
Because
yours.
we sort of have to define what it
Having a road is
is.
a good road to have.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I don't
Got
mind
a
starting
lot of
with
people that complain all the time.
Right, so, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, when we go to deliberative, we will talk about the overall plan, because it's out there, and it's public record anyway, and we try to advertise it, but this just allows us to start getting some more steps done to it. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep on we're gonna keep on chipping away at the pile.
No, I was just curious about naming roads, only because a lot of people will go, well, that's not my road, my road's in worse
Yeah.
condition than
We
that road,
debate-
so
we
I'm not gonna
debated
vote for
that
it.
too.
Yeah, well, and it's hard, given the number, we don't have a lot of through streets. So, we've taken good care of things like Albuquerque and Page and those. So, some of these roads are there will be people in town who have no idea where streets are on some years that we list these.
Is that plan published up on the website? That database, that
Yeah.
score?
Not the score,
If it's.
I have the dump of the dump of our schedule, and that should be in the deliberative webpage we have for supporting for the vote, so,
Okay.
yeah, and I'll make sure it's up to date too if it's not, but it should be there.
I'd like to respond to something Mr. Cutter just said about timing. And specifically, you said the budget's high. It is. I know, this is the tough decision that we all claim we make, or are supposed to make. So the point I'm getting at, the budget's gonna be high next year. and it's gonna be high the next year, and the year after that. So, but you know, roads keep getting worse every year. So I know you and I are on the same page with this, and I know the dilemma that you're struggling with. And that was what I was struggling with when I spent time writing up my change to the bottom line. Okay, which is the same thing, by the way, I want to emphasize again, I do in my business, and I'm sure you do also. So, but you know, you got to get the roads done. And if it's not these roads, it's going to be another road. So, I mean, if either Cutler Road or Stark Lane doesn't get done, if this is approved, and another road needs it more, I'm sure the money will go to that other road. But the bottom line, they're going to need it.
And I also understand that the longer you wait, right, the more work
Cost it goes.
the more work is required. I absolutely get that.
Yeah, when we were looking, and this is, just, you know, when we were looking at the bond, one of the decisions around was the way the material costs were going up, it would almost fund the bond, but it just still didn't. It's a bigger bite of the pie that I just don't think that the community would support, so.
Just a side note, I personally am glad you did not go with the bond, because I wouldn't have been able to support that. Correct, costs are going up now. Blacktop is tied into petroleum, but it doesn't mean just because it's going up now, it will go up in the future.
No, that's true.
It could really go down and drastically, so I'm glad you guys chose not to go the route of the bond.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Final discussion? Mr. Spencer?
Yeah, the only problem I have with this article, John, is that it doesn't really reflect the fact that we are spending $100 and some odd thousand in the operating budget. Okay, so that as a voter, I look at that and I see a highway block grant, you know, but it doesn't really reflect that we're spending that money in the operating budget.
170,000 also.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so that we're really saying we're gonna spend
340,000.
Yep.
in total, okay? So I would suggest.
It does, it says the sum matches.
Matches the sum,
Matches the
it
amount.
matches the highway block grant of the same
But
value.
the average person
Right.
does not know that means we're spending that money in the operating budget. Okay, so, time out, okay. I would suggest that rather than say, that I would change the third line on this there where you say expected to be received. I would say expected to be spent by the town in the operating budget through the highway block grant money. So they know that we've already got $100 and some odd thousand in the budget, and we want another $100 and some odd thousand to do more work.
Well, the second line says this sum matches the amount expected to be received by town through the.
Received,
Expected
Which
to
is
be
income.
received,
Well, the first line says raise.
yeah.
yeah, raise 170.
Over and above.
Yeah, I understand.
It's pretty clear.
Oh, it's not pretty
It's
clear.
not
Well, obviously,
clear.
I can't change the wording.
We could have deliberative.
No, you can't, because DRA, so we'll have to go back to DRA and see if they would accept that wording to be there, but.
Oh, yeah, do that, because I'll make the motion deliberate if you don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think that deliberately, you're stuck at not changing the intent, but I don't think that would change the
No,
intent.
it
No, it's
doesn't.
just the
It
wording.
clarifies it.
Clarify it, yeah.
And that's all I'm looking to do is clarify what you're doing here, and the fact that, you know, tell the town you want to spend that kind of money on the roads. It's not clear from this that you are doing that.
Well, I think, you know, we haven't obviously put together our deliberative presentation, but during the deliberative presentation, when this warrant comes up, that will be the topic. It's about what we're doing, how we've been scoring, what we've been doing so far. So it will be explained.
But how many people see
No, I-
the explanation
I-
versus the voting in the booth? It's the booth where you want to get the
Yeah, I
information.
hear you.
on that.
Well, my concern is they'll think that we're spending 300, you know, that.
You are.
That we're raising $340,000. We're not.
No,
We don't raise $340,000 of the tax base. We're asking for additional 170, you know, from the taxpayers in town to match those funds. So I don't want it to confuse, because, Bill, if you remember, we had Winter Circle where we said the net effect was zero, and they voted it down unanimously because they thought it was coming out of the taxes. So I don't want to confuse it.
I don't think what I suggested confuses it.
Anyway.
No, but let me get clarification. I think it actually, I appreciate what you're saying, because you can also read this, if you leave out, we understand what we're reading. You know, I can read this as a casual observer thinking, oh, this matches what's going to be received by the town through the block grant. Well, it's going to be completely offset by the block grant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
that was my
Right,
initial.
as opposed to, wait a minute, this is in addition to. So I think
point.
that's fair.
So let's
This
see if we
could
can
be
clarify it,
confusing.
but.
Okay.
I'm still going to vote against it, but that's beside.
Why would you, don't you want your road fixed?
His is done.
Oh, that's
They
right.
got mine already.
Oh, because we did the culvert a long time after.
All those in favor of Article 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Aye. No, no, sorry.
Abstained? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, Article 4, this is to raise and appropriate 21,000, this is gonna be a long one for me to read, but raise and appropriate $21,000 towards the purchase of replacement of SCBA equipment. These funds will be used either as a town matching share for a regional grant application, which is, if awarded, will award the town $186,000 for the purchase of this equipment, or if the grant is not awarded, as a portion of this purchase price of the equipment, the remaining funds from which will be raised and appropriated at a future town meeting. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation, according to RSA 32:7, Section 6. It will not lapse till the equipment is purchased by, or by December 31st, 2016.
So what does this mean?
So we're asking to raise $21,000 so that so we can match the grant. If we're awarded the grant, we're gonna get $186,000 worth of equipment that we
What are
wouldn't.
you buying? What
Uh,
does,
these-
what
these are air-
does
these are air packs.
SCBA mean?
These are air packs.
Air packs, like it says in the title line.
Yeah, these are fire department air packs.
This article is
Exactly.
very vague.
Thank you. Huh?
This article is very vague, my 2 cents. It's not clear at all.
Well, what's
reading this
clear is we're
report.
asking for $21,000.
Yeah, I
the
get
acronym.
that.
Abbreviation.
But why wouldn't you go get the grant first, then come back next year and ask for $21,000?
Because
I think they can do that.
I don't think we have to have the money, I think,
Yeah.
in front to let the grant.
We have to have the match in hand.
Because this is a regional grant that's happening, so there's a lot of departments that are gonna get, that will, if awarded, will be involved, and we have to be ready to react. And I can't pull $21,000 out of the budget to react.
I don't even know what an air pack replacement is.
It's, you know, when a firefighter goes into a burning building, they're wearing a mask and an air pack, that's what that is.
Okay.
But
That's
I would think
safety.
rather than just the acronym SCBA, that you'd spell that out.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Like to-
I don't think that's a problem. And obviously during deliberative, the fire department will be talking to it and talking about what it is, but the gear we have is all, it needs to get replaced. This is one way to do it cost effectively if we can participate in that program. If we can't, we'll have to come back and ask for the additional money next year, but,
Isn't the gear we have less than 10 years old?
It is, it goes, they stop being certified in 16, I believe, 15 or 16. They're out of their certification.
Okay.
So
But
that's.
it's only about 10 years old because we
Yeah.
have to replace them.
Yeah, that's the life cycle for them, so that's why this plan is trying to get a bit ahead of it so they
They
can
don't
still.
make
I think we went from metal cylinders to like fiberglass cylinders and different air masks
and different connectors, and this is, when you do the regional thing, this is so everybody has swappable parts and all that, so there's a huge benefit from that perspective.
So other towns are participating in this also?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a regional fire grant, so they're all going after the money.
So if we don't get the grant.
The $21,000 will get put away, and
And
we'll
the
come back.
following year, we'll ask for money from the.
We're gonna have to try to figure out the strategy over 1 or 2 years to make up the $165,000 difference.
And if you still don't get it, then it lapses and the money goes back.
It goes to fund balance if nothing happens at the end of 16,
But
right?
at some point in time in 2016, when the equipment's no longer good, we have to replace it from a safety perspective, so hopefully this works.
So is this a quote, is this $207,000, this equipment?
No, it's $186,000. That is what is requested in the grant. Our matching share of the 186
Is 21,000.
is 21,000. So if we were successful in receiving the grant, we would get the 165.
Okay.
My head is spinning on this one. Mr. Brunel made a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Oh, I thought it was already second.
I thought it was too, but
I
maybe
didn't hear
not.
a second, so, did you have a second on that? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We just started talking right
Yeah.
away.
Second by Mr. Spencer, okay. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 8-0-0. Okay.
So Article 5 is the police contract. Shall the town approve of the cost items for wages and related costs that have included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Litchfield and Council 93 of American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. The 2014 costs are $44,562. And further to raise and appropriate the sum of, let's see, that's already said that. Additional cost. That's it. Impact is 5 cents. And I think I gave you a while back all the collateral around that, so.
Yes. That was sent to the committee on December 3rd.
You made the motion? Second?
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Rennell, second by Mr. Spencer. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye. Abstained? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. The next one for this committee is Stormwater Management Trust Fund, so Article 7. To see if the town will vote to establish a stormwater management expendable trust fund pursuant to RSA 3119-A. Furthermore, to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 for deposit into this fund and to appoint the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from the fund. The fund can be used for the costs associated with engineering, documenting, repair, and planning of stormwater and drainage systems, as well as compliance with EPA stormwater system permits. The estimated net tax impact is 5 cents.
We have a motion by Mr. Brunel,
Second.
second by Mr. Bork. Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, if you could just explain this.
So first, isn't this part of a larger statewide initiative?
So we're required as a community to file permits with EPA. We do it every year. The laws are changing. They're getting more complex, and they're basically requiring to have outside external help to do it. It's just almost impossible for us to do it. This plan, and I'll let Jason talk to you, he's the one putting it together for us, but.
Yeah. There's, the issue we have is it's a EPA mandate. We're in, I think, year 10 of the last 3-year permit. It has been subject to continual review. So we last saw the draft permit in the fall of 13. The expectation is that they will release a final permit in sometime in 14, although it's not clear yet, given the history of this, given the level of anxiety and comment and challenges with that permit. That said, once it happens, there's a certain time frame where we have to be doing fairly extensive documentation, tracking, testing, and the like on this as an ongoing process as a requirement of the EPA, finable outside of compliance. So what we're trying to do here is set aside a trust fund so we have the ability to cover the compliance pieces we need, and also deal with the timing issue, because the timing's unknown. If it rolls out next year, I need to be able to do it. If it rolls forward, we still need to be in a position to do that. And there's the issue, unfortunately, is it's a lot of field work, a lot of paper, a lot of tracking, not a lot of meaningful impact to our residents on the ground, but it is a large compliance effort.
So what happens if, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, I was just going to ask a couple questions about that, because by now, we should have been pretty much done with all the pieces of that. How could we not be? They were in every year from
Because
the
the
day
rules-
that
because they're
that
changing the
started. You
rules.
had
Yeah,
tasks
they-
that you needed to
Right, well,
complete.
We've done all that,
those
yeah.
tasks were very simple tasks.
Yes, one of the
okay,
tasks, as I recall,
in a
since I
school
worked on
sense,
that.
it's like,
Me too.
yeah, exactly.
Was to document all your outfalls, document all
Right.
your storm drains. That was like in year 3.
Sure,
year 4.
exactly.
And now they're
And
changing.
now you have to test those outfalls, map each and
The
map
mapping
each.
was in year 3.
No, not map where they are. We had to map
Map
where they
where the
were.
flows
Now
go.
we have to analyze the sub networks, analyze the exposures in each of those networks. What you had to do in the last plan is simply show where they were. The school example is, in the last plan, you had to learn your ABCs. In this plan, you have to put those letters together and write complex sentences. And so that's the difference of where we are.
Thank you, Jason. I think I'm pretty well versed in that particular aspect of this
Yeah,
thing.
and that's,
I'm just,
yeah.
So somewhere we should have the 5-year plan, right?
We
Just don't
do,
wanna
we
manage.
do it, but again, when I did, the last one I did was when I first came on the board. At that point, we were going through the renewal process, and that was delayed, and then all these things were changing, and so this is our only way out, right? This is our way to actually do it effectively. We don't want the town to be fined, because it has
I
happened in the
understand
past.
that piece, I'm just, it's, okay.
So what happens if this is voted down? What's the impact to the town?
The
They have to
impact,
figure out how to do it.
We'll have to figure out how to pay for it.
the impact for the town is we will have to figure out how to deal with the minimum level we can do to not have EPA fine us in the first year.
But the plan is already, we know where everything is with it.
It-
You just gotta
it-
figure out where the water goes. I mean, there's a,
No, it
there's
is
a foundation already.
The base data is there, and EPA says, great, you finished that 5 years ago. We want you to do much more analysis of it.
But
right?
you're not starting from scratch. is
No,
what I'm
No,
saying.
no. We have where stuff is, but they don't care. It's much more beyond, we don't care where it is. Those are nice maps, we've seen them. Now we want you to analyze the maps. And we want you to go and test the outflows and see what's flowing through each of those, as opposed to just telling me where it is.
And
So-
who gave the number of 40,000? Is it estimated or something?
Yeah, I spoke to two different engineers to say, can you get me into a ballpark on what would I be looking at in year one to try to get this going? And that was part of the other reason we set it up into a trust fund too. So if we don't need to spend all of it in year one, it carries forward.
How much is EPA fine? Because I gotta tell you, I think it'd be cheaper to put in the operating budget.
You know, at this point, the Board of Selectmen does not want to deal with the fine. We've already been fined in one pass, or at least attempted to be fined, because we didn't file in time. Several boards before me, but we don't want to have that happen again, and we don't have the resources to do it ourselves, so we need the engineering resources.
How many years is this? Until it's.
Oh,
what are they holding you
how
to?
good is that 40,000? That will be one full year or less. The full implementation, colleague of mine in Hampstead kind of got the soup to nuts proposal. And the numbers that she got were we were planning on 70 to 80,000 a year.
And we needed something
Yeah,
to start
sorry.
with.
Right.
And we don't, I mean, the problem is that things with the EPA still up. We don't know when they're gonna pull the trigger. We don't know when we have to respond. We don't know what other requirements will come out. This will give us at least a safety net to be able to respond to it and keep us out of trouble. And then figure out what the long term is.
We're hiring somebody to do this, right?
Yes, we will hire somebody to kind of provide a framework for us. There's plenty of stuff that we can do ourselves, but, there's some pieces where, I need the engineering structure, and quite honestly, the filing of the notice of intent, which is the first EPA filing, that's beyond our normal work. We're not scientists and engineers.
No town can do this on their own.
Towns that have full-time professional engineers on staff
Yeah,
can.
we have a contract engineer. That's
Right.
who we'd be leveraging if we were to do it, potentially. It may be another engine, but
What's
that's.
the absolute minimum you would have to do if this is not voted on?
At this point, I don't know, because the permit is not released yet. That when that permit's released, a clock starts ticking. There is a formal requirement of filing a notice of intent, which is sort of your first outline the plan to EPA, and then you actually have to be in a position to deliver them your 5-year plan within a certain time frame after that. My concern, and the reason we bring this forward, is flying blind with no ability to do it is a larger risk that I don't want to be sitting here next year trying to explain how come we had to eat this huge fine and why do we need to spend all of this money for compliance.
$40,000, it's just so many, a lot of money.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained?
Aye.
Motion, 4-3-1, right? 4-3-1. Motion passes 4-3-1.
Was it?
So.
Well, recommend.
It's not a pass,
Recommended.
you recommend, right? Okay, Article 8, which is the repainting of Old Town Hall. I actually thought we voted on this already, didn't we? Maybe the Board of Selectmen, maybe voted on it very quickly. For
Yeah,
some reason, I
Board of
just
Selectmen, 4-1.
Yeah, well, we have them all voted now, but I. for
This
some
is
reason
a
I thought it was-
$0, do we?
It's coming out, you have to recommend
It's an
it.
appropriation.
It is an
So
appropriation.
you need.
I agree, I just want to make sure that the committee agrees. to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the repairing the old town hall and, it's actually supposed to be repainting of the old town hall.
What does it say? Oh,
Repairing.
repainting.
So
Yes.
it is supposed to be repainting, thank you, we gotta fix that. The Old Town Hall, and to fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of the amount from the unexpended fund balance as of December 13th, 2013. This price includes legal required abatement of lead paint. This would have a net cost to the 2014 general taxation of $0. Tax impact is 0. I need a second.
Second.
Come on, Andrew.
I'm still trying to digest what your warrants are trying to say.
My warrant's trying to say we need to raise $20,000 and get approval to take it out of the general fund.
We have a motion by Mr. Brunel and a second by Mr.
repaint-
Bork.
yeah. Repaint and repair our exterior, basically.
Discussion.
So this right now is leased to the Historical Society. What
Mhm.
responsibility do they have to maintain the building?
They have none. It's still our asset, still our property. We're required to repay it. They have offered to help fund some of the payment, but at this point, we don't know what that is, and I can't count on that. This warrant failed last year. The building needs to be taken care of, so we are we're taking our risks coming forward again with the voters to have it, to ask them for permission to take it out of the general fund, but we feel it's the best way to fund for it. Just putting it in the budget.
Okay, final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Aye. Motion carries 701.
All right, Town Hall roof. Article 9 is to see if the town will, and it's the same wording, so I apologize. Article 9 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $43,120 for the replacement of the roof on Talent Hall, and to fund the appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of the amount from the unexpended fund balance as of December 31st, 2013. This would have a net cost to the 2014 general taxation of $0. Tax impact is estimated to be 0.
Motion by Mr. Brunel, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bork.
So do you really expect to have $63,000 at the end of the year?
This is our fund balance, this is not our appropriations.
Okay.
This is what's in the bank account.
All right,
It's already there.
Yeah, it's already there.
all right.
Yeah.
Question on 43,120, that's a very specific number.
It's an estimate based on the vendors that.
Here's my problem with estimates, right? A couple of years ago, there was a $70,000 warrant for the town hall roof, and it came in at a fraction of that, at $40-some thousand. How do I know that that's an actual number?
That is the estimate we have, and it's the estimate that's.
I was told the same thing for the town hall, at 70,000.
Well, we found a way to save money. If you would have preferred we spent the 70 and spent the 40, I'd be happy to do it.
$30,000, so how do I know this is
Yeah, but
actually
don't
gonna
forget,
cost
that
20?
$30,000 was returned back, and so it's not like we went out and spent it for anything else. We're asking for the
You
authorization of.
reappropriated it to fix the
Right.
town hall, the
Right.
front entrance.
That's right, we use it to continue, otherwise we'd have had to go back and ask for it again, so we do that all the time, because that's good fiscal sound sense. Let's not raise it again
There's
if
a
we don't
greater
have
likelihood,
to.
in this case, this is a more specific sort of roof type, so, we went to the most likely vendor and said, give us your best ballpark. You probably won't see the same kind of swing you saw on Town Hall, which was sort of a more open, standard roof.
A shingle roof on Town Hall?
No, I think
No.
it's a.
It's
like a dome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that dome.
It's a rubber.
It's a dome membrane kind
Yeah.
of thing, so.
Okay. What's that building used for?
Town hall?
Pickleball.
Pickleball, basketball practice is.
I know there are things there, I just don't know.
Yeah, there's all kinds of events that happen there. It's heavily used, especially in the winter months.
What's the problem with the roof, John?
I believe there's wear and there's some leaks happening and so on. So,
Yeah,
just normal year.
it's starting to show its age. The concern is getting to the point where you have
It's not
real
leak-
leaks.
not leaking yet.
It's not leaking yet. So,
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1-1.
It's maintenance.
I don't know
I
anything
know,
about
I know,
costs.
I know.
If it needs it, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is the last one, right? Yep,
Yeah.
this one more. Human Services Agencies. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,952 to support the requests of human services agencies, including Big Brothers Big Sisters, Home Health and Hospice, St. Joseph's Community Services, Bridges and Community Council of Nashua. Tax impact is estimated to be 1 cent.
Second.
Same thing we did last year, you know, the intent is if if someone wants to increase it, that, you know, it's there.
But in the budget, we have some money for a couple specific ones,
We have
right?
one specific thing, which is something we do for youth, it's for juvenile, we're required to use them, so it's sort of a fee, it's,
Okay, and this is.
call it a donation, but it's sort of a fee.
And this is donation to charity is what this is.
These are other organizations that do come into this community and help a significant amount of our citizens.
I would like to, you know, just make sure, let the people in this community know, please donate. I don't like to donate through taxes, but donate your money. These are good charities.
Okay. Final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstains?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1-1.
And I think that concludes all the monetary warrants.
Yeah, could you explain a couple of those for my information, John? The conservation fund cap, and I know these are drafts. You have a 4A and a 4B, and the ones on the 4B, am I missing something?
It's still a work in progress. We had a 4B at one point. The board
got my dump,
opted
so
not
that's
to
fine.
go with 4B, so
Okay.
we haven't quite figured out how we're dealing with all of 4A yet either, so.
It's the wording and trying to break it
Yeah.
out to make it make sense, and we took too much of a chunk out of trying to get it done in the way we had to get it
A
done.
couple of other questions.
Yep.
Route 102 intersection study, is that Page Road?
No. Not necessarily. It's written the way it is because, you know, studying, putting a signal at Page Road, since that intersection is not in Litchfield, it may not be the best answer, so it may be there, it may be a different location.
This is very confusing.
Well, it's a non-binding article, I believe, too, right, if I recall?
Yeah,
True,
this is
that's
just
true.
saying, hey, do you
It's
want
just,
to study
it's
it?
significant, I mean, because at the end of the day, our problem is we don't know, we obviously, we've got a lot of accidents that happen in that intersection. It's out of our control.
Yeah.
We can't influence Hudson or the state. The state's already said no several times. The only thing we can do is look at other outlets out of our community and see if we can do something to change those.
They don't have any
And
other
we just need to
options.
know if the community wants us to go off and forward to do it.
What other outlets are there besides?
The other end of, Cutler.
Cutler, no.
Well,
There's a flashing
You're
light.
gonna repave Cutler, you can't do anything.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
there's also, yeah.
there's been other discussions too. If you remember, there's the circumferential highway, right? There's a segment of road that we could build into and make another intersection.
The
But
what highway?
again, it's the circumferential highway,
Yeah.
the one that goes behind.
The one that I went to the meeting and watched its final death.
No, I know, but we still have, there's still property available to build a road
35
that
years
runs
ago.
parallel. But my point being is, this will give us the indication if the voters want us to take a look at it, and so we can come back and work some ideas and some plans. Right now, we see it as a problem, we believe the problem's really at Page, but we can't solve that problem, they won't let us, right? And even no matter how much we influence our state reps or even Hudson, no interest, so.
Capital Improvement Program Committee, what's the rationale, since you're talking about putting a budget committee member on it, what's the rationale on that?
So, I mean, the rationale, and we're trying to put together a committee to set forth what our capital program will be year over year. So today we have all these assets, we don't know when they're dying off and when they need to be replaced. We're trying to get a replacement program and all that in place. There's more to it than that, but that's the basic concept.
Well, is this different from the one we're legally obligated, the planning board has to put together?
Yeah, this actually takes the responsibility, and instead of housing it completely with the planning
Right.
board, broadens the participation beyond the planning board. Because if
So
you
it'll
think
help-
about it,
So
you
it'll help
know,
feed that, is what
yeah,
it's-
because the planning board,
It's supposed to get the information.
they get the information, but I mean, let's face it, when we're coming back and asking for money for that plan, more of it's coming through here and going to a warrant than going through sort of a planning board impact fee role. So that's sort of the
Which is
rationale.
why I sort of have a problem with a budget committee member being on this committee, right, ultimately it does come here. It's the same thing I have with the school committee.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm falling out of the government bus somewhere, but isn't the capital improvements plan set out by RSA? And it is, no matter what you say, there's laws that govern that fall
Well,
into,
the piece that
that
feeds
say
it-
how that's supposed to be administered and how it works through the process. And certainly if you do this, you're gonna be back visiting impact fees in a very expensive study to reassess how impact fees are calculated. Right?
So-
Am I missing?
I think,
feel
so I
like I'm
think
missing something.
I mean, there's the RSA that drives the planning side of it. This to us, at least from my perspective, is we know what our capitals are, and we don't understand when things need to get, this is to help build that longer-term plan. That
Isn't
will
that what we pay
potentially
the
feed
department
into
heads
those
for?
programs. What's that?
Isn't that what we pay the department heads for?
Yeah, this is help, the department heads will help us develop this plan. Some department heads do it better than others. That's the reality, right? And we need to get a plan that we can go to, just like our roads. Here's our road inventory, this is what the assets are. We have these trucks, this is what their life expectancy is, this is their current condition, what we need to replace. Otherwise, we're shooting in the dark. And this will
I
feed into
understand that part, I'm more about, we're circumventing things that exist already, or we're recreating more.
No, we're taking an alternate path. The 674, RSA 674-5 is the RSA that assigns the creation of capital improvement plan. Now, yes, what needs to be in there is the basics are written up under state law. Plan doesn't write itself, and it doesn't plug in your equipment for you. So all of that needs to happen, and then the other piece that has to happen with it is, okay, what can we reasonably consider affording as a community? And often, we planning sort of exists in one bucket, and then all the rest of us have to try to figure out how to fund it. And so
Well, capital improvement plan is based on growth. That's why it's with planning, right? When you got a community right now like
Yeah, and
ours,
this is not necessarily based on
pretty much
growth.
static.
Right, right, and that's traditionally why it's been in the planning, but that leaves out the whole notion of capital replacement. That's non-growth based.
Not road pits, but, like I said, mainly around our heavy assets, right? We don't have a good sense of when things need to get retired, what their life expectancy are. And we would like to be able to give the budget committee that we're forecasting out. Here's 5 years of expenses we know are coming towards us because of these impacts. And hence why I think the budget committee would play a role, because it will help us understand what those tax impacts will be too.
As I read the wording, am I correct that this does not mandate a budget committee member on the?
No.
That's right.
It's not limited to, or.
It may, yes, it may include. So you may opt not to.
Okay.
And that's certainly the committee's.
Doesn't Article 16 elderly exemptions have a tax
I haven't
impact?
got to that one yet. Let's go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we done with capital improvement?
Okay.
Okay, now.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it
It's
does
not,
have
we're
a
not
tax.
raising any money, but I don't.
There's no appropriation assigned to it. You are correct, it has a tax impact.
Unless there's an
However-
appropriation, this committee doesn't vote on it.
Right, but you're not voting on an appropriation.
Do you know what the impact is?
Yeah, do you have an estimate as to what that impact
Do I have
is?
an estimate of what it would be? Bear in mind that this exists today.
Maybe we should just explain it for the people who
Sure.
are watching.
There are, what this is looking to do is to modify the elderly exemptions we grant. There are bans for certain ages where, based on assessed value, that you can receive a certain exemption. If you qualify and you're between 65 and 75, it's a $50,000 value. Between 76 and 80, it's 80,000, and for 81 and older, 125,000. There's some conditions there where you have to have been a New Hampshire resident for 3 years, own the property, and your net income can, let's see, if you're single, cannot exceed 30,000. If married, it can't exceed 45,000. All of that, those bans, those numbers, those standards all exist today. That is our current elderly exemption.
That's the way it is right now?
That is exactly the way
No
it.
change to the existing?
Yeah, there's no change to the numbers and the the bans and we clarified the qualifications only because our existing one had things that.
Is that what this does?
No, it changes one serious thing, which I'm getting to in a moment. So we cleaned up a couple of qualifications because the language that was enacted here previously didn't match state law, so we cleaned up the qualification so it specifically matches state law. The one thing that this changes is in addition to the income limits, there's an asset limit. Our existing policy says you can't, you are not allowed to have assets in excess of $300,000. And this reduces that asset limit from $300,000 to $150,000. Selectmen opted to go to that level because the asset level excludes your house and excludes your automobile. It appears that when this was created, the thought was that it didn't exclude your house, because when we look at all of our neighboring communities, nobody has an asset limit of 300,000. They're all down in the 100 to 150 range.
So do you have any feel for what the actual impact would be? You know the question will be asked.
Yeah, it will probably mean that we will have probably, I'm looking at this, and my guess is we may actually have fewer people qualify for the exemption than we do now.
Which we never talk about. I mean, these elderly exceptions, they're a tax that, there's $100,000 on top of our operating budget that we have to account for.
Yeah.
For example, so that number we think will go down, at least it should go down.
Yeah, the 300,000 is a fairly generous number.
Yeah, so
why would
well,
anybody vote for
it could
this?
have the impact of,
Why would anybody vote for this?
I mean, I see you word it so it's a
God
reduction,
will.
but in actuality, to a lot of people, it might be an increase.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right, because they won't get the exception, they won't get the exemption.
Right, so if you fall in the 150,000 and 1 to 300,000, plus asset, and you meet the other tests, then this is not in your best interest. But every elderly exemption we give raises the property taxes for everybody who does not receive an elderly exemption.
Right.
Because the rest of the community pays for it. So because this is a very generous asset limit, we have, we probably have a larger pool of people in that exemption list than probably was originally intended. And, and certainly not consistent with what other communities in our area
So
are.
the people who are now getting, paying less in taxes, they're gonna vote against this.
Right.
If they understand it.
If they understand it.
The few that are, there aren't that many.
Yeah, I mean,
The bill.
You don't think there's that many old people? No.
yeah, I mean, don't forget, there's the other side too. You're right, the folks that may be getting that may fall outside because they're acting different now because of the enactment. But there's a reduction on our side too. My property tax is not funding things outside of this thing, outside of this article. So it's a net, right? I mean, yeah, some folks will feel a difference, and I don't know if we really looked at what that total impact was. I'm not sure that
It's not an easy thing for us to
no,
go
not
qualify
at
to
all.
do.
I just know, like I said, there's a number that.
I don't even know how you
this?
govern this. How do you restrict, how do you govern this?
How do you
manage
govern this? Everybody receives an elderly exemption, has to file paperwork with our office for that exemption.
And how do you validate that it's true and accurate?
We ask for, we need statements of assets, and
Okay.
we have to go verify those, and certify that they, that this is their primary residence. We have to certify their income for it. So, I mean, we have to do all those tests. When the new one comes in, we do all of that paperwork. We also need to verify them. This is part of the 5-year assessing cycle, so everybody who gets them gets verified once in the 5 years. So, one of the other reasons for bringing this up this year is we're closing in on our verification in our 5-year cycle for the elderly exemptions. So if this changes in March, we want to verify the right stuff. If we don't change it, then we'll verify the existing reg.
So this is a great thing for people over 75, but why does the town even do it at all?
It's already in law, so
It's state law.
voters already put it in place,
Yeah,
so we're
yeah,
just trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's state law?
No, it's optional. It's optional. The voters have voted for it in the past here and supported it.
There's an enabling law that we were trying to conform to.
same way with
confusing,
veterans. Same
Right.
thing.
So, we already have it, we're trying to now fix it to be more in line. we're not trying to remove it. We don't
There's a
think it's fair.
potential, though, that there's people that are in that are getting it today that will lose it, right?
That is
There is-
correct.
there is a potential. We
If
don't-
they
That are
have,
on fixed incomes.
but who have net assets in excess of $150,000.
You work your whole life to try to get.
Hey,
one
guys,
on
if we're talking about that, there's people in this town where there's a husband and wife with 2 kids, and one got laid off, and they got less than this, and their taxes are going up
Right, because they're funding,
$600.
these.
Well,
these
because
credits,
we're
so.
funding this, but plus, they're
Right,
gonna
right.
go $500 or $600 again after this election, so, you know how the best way to solve this problem? Just keep taxes low all around.
Oh, well, I would still advocate for the older folks.
It's
hard to keep
No,
your
it's
salary.
fair. It's fair.
So what? I advocate for the older folks, I advocate for the younger folks. You know why? Because I've seen it in other towns where the younger folks stop moving in because they look at the town and say, can't afford it anymore, and they'll go to Bow or Auburn where a lot of people are moving to. So I advocate for everybody for lower taxes, but you're right, the elderly do deserve it because they worked hard all their lives. Let me ask you, appointed road agent, Article 17, doesn't that have a tax impact? Because when you appoint,
Nope, this is just changing it. It's not
exact
changing it.
same dollar amount,
Yeah.
the 900 and something bucks.
That will go.
Change it from appointed, from an
He's
elected.
going to put
position.
elected, he's, current road agent's already an employee of this town and making a wage above, so it's just the same thing. There's no, we're not intending to change anything. We're just changing it from elected to appointed.
Oh,
What
yeah.
you do is you'll have an appointed agent on salary.
He's already on salary.
Well, he's on salary.
Stipend.
He's on a
But-
stipend
right.
agent, and then there's a
Well,
worker.
all this is getting us to is that we're gonna have a highway foreman that has the road agent responsibilities. That highway foreman is already in place today. He happens to be our road agent who's done an excellent job.
Yep.
And our intent is to continue that.
Right.
And this is just to help us move forward so that when
Do
we need.
Do we pay retirement for him?
No.
No.
Do we pay health care for him?
If we do, he's paying half of it, right?
Right.
Will we if we have an appointed agent?
At this point, it's still a part-time position.
But
No, but when it's appointed.
Again, if
When it's
if we're gonna
appointed-
change it, we have to now come back and change it. Right now, the role he's playing, he's already doing both roles today. We're just changing the.
yeah,
the
well,
wages around.
it's like you did with the fire chief, like the town did with the fire chief.
Yeah.
You went from elected to appointed, and you went from a stipend and salary as a call firefighter to a chief with a set salary.
Correct. And we're-
Okay, and we were lucky because he was retired, and so we
Yeah.
don't have the other issues associated with some of the costs. No way of knowing in the future if that will take place, if he ever replace him, or in the case of, if this gets changed, in the case of the road agent.
Right. We're not asking for any increase to the appropriation for the wages of that department. It'll fall within that, what it is today.
But downstream,
But
it
it will.
could happen.
But,
Good.
would, could have, should, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
It will.
It may, you could say that, but I don't know if it's going to.
Okay.
I don't have a crystal ball.
In any event,
It's the only town that
were you
probably
just
has.
sending us a reminder to register online, or?
No, I printed this, no, I'm sorry, I printed this from the webpage.
Now,
Just have to cover
let me
everything.
ask the question, why is it you guys want to change it to appointed? Where's the penalty? What?
I think, first off, I mean, I don't have a problem talking about it, but it is
Yeah.
not in the preview of this committee.
And actually, if we want to know those answers.
Come to the
that's
budget.
something-
Come to the
yeah,
selectmen's
this is
meeting,
not
and you
what
have
this
come.
committee, we'll get sold it when we have.
Fair enough. There is going to be a tax impact. That's why I'm asking the question.
No,
Then-
where?
Then at deliberative, you can ask what the tax
Okay.
impact is.
Okay. That concludes warrants. I believe that concludes town business.
I
Mr.
have
Brunel?
one other piece of town business, John.
Okay.
Fire hydrant is still out of commission at Albuquerque and Cranberry.
Yeah.
Been a month, are we still paying for it? I mean,
Probably-
that's my
probably.
question, that's really my question, you know?
Can we
Still
make
one
a
in
phone call
Nacomo
again
as
and
well.
find out why? I know the fire department
Still
knows
one on
about it.
Nacomo
I
as
still know
well.
what the deal is. Where is it?
Nacomo.
If they fix the street light on Albuquerque, so we're all set.
Any other town business, Mr. Brunel?
Nope, that's it for me.
Moving on to member inputs. I had just a couple of very quick ones. Any update from the Building and Advisory Committee?
Yes, actually, they met on Tuesday, and that is, the result was the warrant article that you saw about the access to the buildings. And I can forward you the information that was presented that night. Again, I thought the committee didn't want that level of detail, but I do have it if anybody's interested in it. It was about, I think it was $227,000 worth of proposed building safety measures. The the committee looked at what needed to be accomplished, which basically was, the most pressing thing to the superintendent was, in a classroom, assuming that if someone really wants to get in any of the 3 buildings, they will find a way in. But in those individual classrooms, there is no way, in at least 2 of the buildings, actually all 3 of the buildings, to even dial a 911. So if somebody gets in and there's an issue, there's no way for those people to be able to get some help. So that was the basic, and that's what the proposal funds, is that basic access to the building.
Thank you very much.
And being able to have emergency communication.
Okay.
So that was, the proposal was to recommend that to the school board, and the school board then apparently has approved it, and it's a warrant article.
Thank you very much. One other question, Mr. Brunel, this is probably for you. There was some discussion some time ago on biannual budgets in the shifting to that kind of structure. Where is that?
The best thing I can say is it died on the vine. I mean, there's been some discussion about it. We haven't talked about it when we went into the budget season.
Okay.
It always could come back up.
There was some passion,
No, there was, and I think there's
members.
some reasonable reasons why to do it, and there's some concerns and risks to do it. So, you know, when we started the budget season, was off the table because we had to focus on that.
Okay.
So, nothing new since the last time.
All right. Anything else from the committee? Public input.
Evening.
Good
Jason
evening.
11 Perry Court. I was at the committee meeting yesterday, and I'm not going to go into a long thing. I don't remember it quite like it was explained, but I came in a little bit late and I left a little bit early, so I might have missed something. I found it interesting tonight that Mr. Brunel, one of the warrants is to talk, to ask the voter about if they want the Board of Selectmen to investigate spending money to fix a stoplight that's not even in our town. Yet the Board of Selectmen voted to not bring a warrant article forward to see if they wanted to cut hours or see if there could be savings in some of the departments in town. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know, the whole thing about voting on the same night you get something, talking about the teacher's contract, nowhere did anybody, and you may have thought about it after the fact or whatnot, but what hasn't come out, and I don't believe was addressed when they did the contract, was the 40% Cadillac tax that's going to be applied due to the Obamacare this year. Large employers like this one are not exempted from that. So what's not in those numbers is a 40% tax on that plan, regardless of what the plan is. So that's a budget buster in itself. And then lastly, raising taxes on the oldest among us, which is what that warrant article is going to do, to me, despicable. And I can't even say if those savings will offset mine. You know, there's talk about, well, you'll receive some money back from the people that fall out of that exemption, and it will offset mine. Only if spending doesn't increase. You know, government has a good way of saying, "Oh, look, new money," and it not finding its way back. Now, will that happen? I don't know. I just don't trust that. Thank you. Well done this year, by the way, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Other public input? Yes, please.
Carrie Douglas, 9 Pheasant Street. I was also at the meeting for the building and planning, and I think what was relayed tonight was for the plan for next year. Discussion for the warrant article this year was to actually secure the buildings, because right now there is no ability to do so very well. They were talking about number of keys being unknown, who has them. There's no way to track it. So the warrant article, as written and presented by the school board, my recollection is slightly different. Also, contracts, it's unfortunate that the school board people aren't here anymore, because I have the same question as Jason had for the school board as I have for the police contract, is how is that, at what point do we hit that 40% tax? Because who's paying for that? Does that come out of the union members? Are they going to be responsible for that, or is the taxpayer? Because if it's the taxpayer, well, there's a reason all my friends are moving to Merrimack, because this town is considered expensive, and you add another 40%, we're going to continue to see enrollments at the school decline. I also had a question about the wage tables. My understanding is they were developed originally at a town meeting. We vote on the teachers' salaries, we vote on the police salaries, we vote on non-contract salaries. Why are we not voting for revised wage tables. What makes them different? I mean, do we just hope the voter doesn't notice? I mean, it's just, we should be transparent about those things. And if we're gonna make a change, and a big change, the voters should have the opportunity to weigh in. So those are my main issues, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spencer?
I do, was that 40% discussed at all?
It was, but I'm not exactly certain, to be honest with you, but I thought with the new contract and the new insurance that it would not hit the Cadillac.
Yeah,
No, it's still Cadillac.
I find it hard to believe that the administration wouldn't have anticipate that and brought it forward. It's the news to me, and I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have anticipated that, so.
As far as the town side goes, because of the contract, if it does get passed, we lose the rate system we're in today, because it's kind of like bundled with the school. So we are actually, we're in the process of already changing our insurance. Our contract's up in July, and we're well aware of what those impacts may in fact be if they are. So we're trying to get away from that as much as possible to adjust it so it doesn't impact the taxpayer. So to answer the one question, we're aware of it, we're working towards it. We're not impacted by anything until July. Our contract's up, that's when we're doing it. We've had sessions with our insurance agents, our insurance companies about different plans and so on. So, we're trying to solve that issue.
Okay. Cindy?
Yeah, just to clarify, because two comments were made about my report. It's detailed out, the 36,700 includes panic alarms for 3 schools and access control for 3 schools. As I said, the ability to, in an emergency, get help, the panic, and the access controls is the key control. So I have those details. If anybody wants a copy, they can certainly have copies.
Yeah, we're still in public input.
All right, well, back to the panic alarms, it's a buzzer in the main office that would notify directly to the police department and possibly have the ability, depending on programming, to shut it down. It does not provide the teachers in the classroom the opportunity to call 911.
People can have copies if they want.
Okay. We'll close public input. A couple of things before we adjourn. I did send out an agenda for next Tuesday, the 14th, in case a meeting was needed. I did reserve this room. Thank you, Michelle. I don't know if the committee has a desire to meet. I don't see at this moment any standing agenda items, unless the committee disagrees.
I won't be there regardless. And I have other commitments that night.
Okay. All right, so we will move forward again then with the budget hearing meeting on next Thursday, a week from today, January 16th, right here at the auditorium, followed by a budget committee meeting. We're going to move the meeting to this room so it can be recorded. For any last minute.
I'm sorry, we're going to have the hearing in there.
Hearing in there.
We'll come in here.
We'll come in here for the committee meeting thereafter. Okay?
Are you going to send a preliminary deck out, or?
So I
can.
Yeah, I have so just to speak a little bit about the budget hearing presentation, I sent an email, hopefully everybody got it, I don't know.
I saw it.
Oh, okay, it's been received.
I saw it.
What did it say?
I've been having some email challenges, just a few days ago. I can look up the exact date. It didn't have the deck associated, but it put together my plan as to when I'm going to send the deck. All right, I hope to get you a preliminary deck at some point this weekend.
And you talk about work-life balance, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
That happens. Just so you can start to input. I've also asked the committee to provide any input in seeking your feedback as to what's worked well in past years and what hasn't, because I don't have that insight.
Yeah, I saw that email.
But that's the one I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So if there's any insight that you have, please share it with me. The deck right now, with a few blank pages for warrant articles, is right around 30 slides. It's very consistent with last year's format in terms of look, feel, content, that type of thing, minus just a few redundant slides that I felt were just duplicative. That's all. Okay. The challenge with the deck so far, with the presentation, is that a lot of numbers haven't been finalized. So within that presentation, there's a lot of graphs and charts and really good information I want to pass on to the community. I just haven't been able to update it yet.
Yeah.
So Andrew, from the town side, on Thursday, I know you're not back till Thursday, but come Thursday morning when you're ready, give myself or Jason a call, and we'll help you fill in the numbers that come out you know, the numbers that you need from the town perspective, and even some actions we took at the board, so you have the real numbers.
Okay.
I mean, you can note they're not approved yet.
Yeah,
but-
if you'll be available Thursday morning, I'll do that.
Yeah, like I said, and I can coordinate, so you can just give Jason a call. He has all the hard numbers anyway.
Okay.
Because I think we, other than the school side, we're 100% locked in stock as what the numbers are, so we're aligned.
Okay. So again, we're canceling Tuesday, the 14th meeting. Disregard that agenda that was forwarded. Again, just reserving the room in case it was needed. We will meet again on the 16th for the budgetary meeting, 7 o'clock in the auditorium. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Peoples, second. Mr. Brunel, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 800. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.